meeting will come to order. Let the roll call show that currently all board members are present with the exception of Mrs. FHUSD. Our first item is approval of the agenda. I will go ahead and move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Wendy. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? There are no opposed, so the motion passes and we'll proceed with the agenda as presented. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. George, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to superintendent's comments. Dr. Jagodinski, what do you have for us this evening?
All right, well, good afternoon, President, members of the board, and Gus. So I have a few things just to share with you. Some hiring updates. We're still in the process of completing a few hires down the stretch and been working everything all I can to try to find people. It is challenging right now across the board. We did hire a dean of students at the middle school, which will be, I guess I can say that, right?
I think we've announced it.
Okay. Val Reichler will be the dean of students for the middle school, and I think she brings institutional background knowledge and some stability to the school that's very much needed. You know, I as a parent that had her as my child's teacher 6 years total with 3 kids, I can say to the community that she's excellent in everything she does. So I think her and Dr. Wheeldryer's strengths and weaknesses, you know, will work very strongly. And I don't like to use the word weakness, more of just areas that they have not had the experience in administration. So both are relatively new to administration, but Val's understanding of the community, the parents, the students will help Kim. And then Kim's experience in special ed, professional development, and administration will help Val. So, and I will be there to help mentor them as well.
Awesome.
Outside of that, I'm close to hopefully solving some of our band issues. It's too early to say it's done, but I feel very confident that I'm very close to a solution for the middle school and the high school. So the elementary is a little bit more challenging, but we're working on a plan B and a plan C. I always like to have three plans there in everything we do. So I feel good about that. And we have posted security positions. So I've made a commitment to working with our financial, kind of our consultants are working with us on finance, that we can, in our budget, we could afford to post those positions. So we're gonna try to put a security at every school this year, at McDowell and the middle school, and then a second one at the high school. So a total of 4 security. I just strongly believe that having someone patrolling the campus is very important, and giving them some additional assistance with unstructured time. I really want our principals to be instructional leaders, and giving them some additional help would be excellent. So we're looking, we need people to apply for those, but those are all posted now. Outside of that, we hired a counselor at the high school, which I'm very, very proud of. I think I spoke to the candidate on the phone when, like, I have that talent ed open most of the day, and I just refresh it, and if anyone applies, I've been calling them as superintendent, which is probably a little strange for them. Like,
I posted it like 5 minutes ago when the superintendent called me.
Right.
Yeah, don't
sound
desperate.
desperate.
So we're just like, you know, we're calling people immediately, and so we did hire from a lady from Tucson who was in Tucson Unified. And what really sold her on our district is our ratio of about 220 to 1. where she was coming from, a school that was 1,000 students to one counselor.
Wow, that's
So
pretty
she was
typical.
very excited for the opportunity, and so that completes both counselors at the high school. I'm very
Nice.
happy with
Awesome.
those. So big picture, as far as admin and administrative support, we're pretty good across the board now.
Mhm.
And I really like the direction the middle school is headed. I really like the vibe over there. They've been working as a team on a lot of things, and I just feel the collaboration is there, and I feel really good about that. On the tech side, we have the tech director position open. We started to look at an outside group that could possibly come in and provide tech services if we cannot find anybody. We did find a company that is part of One GPA, so it would be a co-op contract. We just got a final number for them that we could bring them in, and if we did that, you know, we believe in the end, it would actually save the district money. We only have right now, heading into this school year, one full-time position, right?
1.5.
Yeah, so we have 2 part-time, oh, actually, one and a half, I take
Yeah.
that back. So we'll have 1.5 out of 4 positions to head into the school year, but we're on track with everything as far as Chromebooks are ready to go. A lot of the pre-stuff's ready, teacher laptops are done. So it really comes down to support as the kids start to use them, teachers start to use them. So this organization is called the Fruth Group, and they are, they do about 30, they cover about 30 charter schools right now, and the Diocese of Phoenix is their biggest account here. And so they provide all tech services, make sure you're SIPA compliant, make sure you have the latest cybersecurity prevention in place, all those types of things. So right now, we'll be coming to the board probably in August with a possible request for them. But right now, it looks like if we take the salaries we have plus bringing them on board, it would save us money. In the end, they told us their average ticket response is about 8 minutes, so that, and they would have a help desk for teachers to be able to email or call with tech issues. So we're hopeful that that would be good, and so that's where we're at with tech. On
Do they
finance,
have
yeah.
a presence here in Fountain Hills?
They do. There's a couple of people who work for the company are, you know, residents in the town.
With kids in school?
One just, I think, graduated.
And is it a contract or is it a month-to-month thing? Like if we did find a director?
So they would do it by semester.
Okay.
So we'd have to commit to the
Yep,
first
yep.
semester, and then that would give us a chance to see if it's working.
That's
And then if not, we would have the opportunity to go a different direction and then continue to, if we love it, we stick with it. If we don't, we could continue to look. So that's where we're at with that. We are looking still for a director of finance. We have contracted with Dr. Allen for some issues, but again, we're trying to let him retire, and yes,
I have someone applying for that position.
okay,
And that is very, very excited about the possibility.
okay. So for the time being, because there's so many purchase orders coming through our desks right now, we have contracted with True Professionals, and they are, again, on One GPA, I believe it's One GPA. And they are basically some of the best people in that world that do contracted work. And so we have two gentlemen that are working with us, and we're able to have them go in and help us approve things, make sure that we're spending things correctly, and just put some things in order that need to be done on the finance side. So we're very happy with them right now, but it is a temporary fix until we find somebody. Okay. Election documents were completed and sent out for just to review. And the only thing which I talked to you all individually about at one point was just the how the money would be broken down for the bond and for the DA override. The only real change from what Patrick had put into place as far as how those spending categories would be was we just added to like for example, renovations and additions to existing school buildings, we also add into their school safety. And we did that across the board. School safety is very important to me and very important to for us as a school district to have safe schools. And so this money would allow us to do some things with school safety that maybe we couldn't have done in the past. So we didn't want to have just a simple one category be tied to only that much money. So the idea was if we put it out in several categories that we'd be able to use that. So that was all recommendations from Stiefel. I just said I'd like school safety, and then they were the ones that went in and put it where they thought it should go. Okay.
And have you created the pack, or have you started that yet?
I'm as soon as I get like a little bit more above water.
Okay.
Yes. And I have some names of people who've already reached out, and then names that were left for me that would be people that would be interested. And I know that Dr. Sweeney is very interested in helping
Awesome.
lead that for me.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to let it go too long, because that was part of our problem last year, is that we got started too late, and early ballots go out October 6th.
Yeah, and by the time the pack had gotten organized and started to do kind of their roadshow around to different organizations, it was into October, and some people had already returned their early ballots.
Okay.
So we missed the
So
boat.
we'll get on it. Once I get my presentation to staff on August 4th, and my whole shift will change. I've been
And
trying
that's
to
fine.
really
It's
nail
probably
that.
better for this election to end, because that way people also are not confused that why is it not on my ballot?
Right.
Yeah,
Because it's a November election, not
Not
an
an
August
August
election.
one.
So it's probably
Yeah.
better that you don't start soliciting people until after that anyway.
yes.
So I will get on that right away. And then just want to share our theme for the upcoming year. It's really going to be centered on, for the district, high expectations. That is where we're going. And everything we do, from our customer service to our achievement to our athletics, our clubs, just the way we do things as a district has to be, we have to set the bar high and get back to just saying, look, we've had a rough couple of years with COVID. We've had some things we've been through with online learning and pivoting and all the different words we learned to use in the last couple of years. But it's now time to get back to being a top tier district in what we do. So already met with all of our principals, and the high school's got a theme this year, which I was really happy with. I can't reveal it yet, but I was really happy to see that. They had shirts made for the staff.
Oh,
And so I
nice.
really feel like they're heading the right direction. And then, I know Kevin and Kim are working on things as well. But really it comes down to, I'm going to present a lot of, it's really, the idea here is to really get our teachers to be inspired to get back to why they got into it in the first place, and get back to just realizing that the higher expectation they have for students, the more they push, the better the outcome's going to be. And getting back to some things that have worked here in the past, like our reteach program and our Saturday catch-up rooms and things of that nature, we just need to continue to do. So I do a presentation for the staff. One thing we're going to hit on is just you can't just be great over a month's time. It takes time, and we're really going to push the 1% better idea, and that is each day we try to do things better than we did the day before, and if you do that over a year's time, you're 36 times better than when you started. And so that's really where we're going to go. Each day, try to be better, learn from things, and continue to push hard. Then the other thing I just want to share is once we get, again, things started, I would like to start a strategic plan process to really look at where we need to go as a district and what our vision really is going to be. I have a vision in my head, but it has to be collaborative, and it has to be what our town and what our parents and students and staff are really want to see for our district. So we'll start that process probably in September is my hope to get that off the ground, and we'll put together committees to go through that process and hopefully come out with a 3-year plan is my hope of where we'll be in 3 years, and then we'll revise that and see where we're at based on that. So that'll be social, emotional, it'll be academic, it'll be athletics and extracurricular, all the different, retention of teachers. I mean, all the things that we really need to focus on and make this, hopefully, when we're done, is that, and we achieve these goals, is that our parents and the community will feel that they have a great school option here. Our staff feels like this is the place to work and I want to be here. And our students feel like they're cared for and supported. So that's what we're pushing for on the vision. And then the other thing just on my mind is as we get into regular board meetings, I've asked Krista to add the opportunity to try to celebrate more success in the district. So asking our principals to give us a student and staff to be recognized and come and maybe start even having some performances and things like that, just so that we can celebrate the great things that our schools are doing. So
Excellent.
with that, it concludes my comments.
Couple questions.
Yeah,
Would you mind if we showed up on the 4th?
of course.
What time is it?
I will get you guys
It's
that.
breakfast.
That is on my desk.
I think it's
so
8, I
sorry.
think it's like 8:30 or 9. I go on right after breakfast. So
And
yeah.
that's where?
That'll be
Cafeteria.
At the high school?
At the
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah, and breakfast will be served.
And that's where they're doing pictures that day too, right?
Yes.
Yes, so.
In the small
Get
gym.
your
Yeah.
picture taken.
And finally, the dog?
So Frank is, so we reached out to Dave and got some guidance. So just as an extra precaution, I'm getting some therapy and dog insurance for him. So I've been on the phone with the company. It's pretty minimal cost and just gives us a little extra layer.
Yes.
And then from there, what we'll do is we'll send something out to the entire district, just saying that, here's what our plan is, and if you have concerns, here's what we'll do, and go from there. But yeah, he's home working out.
He doesn't fit in his little vest anymore.
Gotta go to a new
But do you
one.
let him in the pool?
Oh yeah, he loves the pool. He's
Alright,
very
good.
excited about the pool. He's spent a lot of the summer in the pool. Yes. Any other questions?
Okay, the next item on the agenda is our SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Do you have any kind of, I know she's pointing at you, Wendy. I think everybody knows what the SWOT analysis is. Do you want to help set the stage for us though, Dr. J, as far as what you hope that we'll be able to get out of this evening? Yeah, I know. He's like, I just finished talking, taking a break.
Yeah, I would say that I think the goal here is that you guys, as a collective group, are giving me your goals and vision of what you want me to work on and how I can tie my evaluation back to those goals. So it's more, I think, brainstorming of, what are the areas that we really need to address, and then from there, I take that and develop my goals for you to approve, and then I always like to have this will be the first time having principals, but in the past, I always had assistant principals align their goals to mine, and so we'll do the same thing here where each level will align to those goals overall, so, yeah.
I'm an outcome person, so goals and outcomes can be similar, but they can be different, so.
And some may take more than 1 year to do, so sometimes it's good to put a attainable goal in for year one, knowing that it's a multi-year goal, so.
What do you guys think? Do we want to compose here and then have somebody go up and
We're just
write
used to
things
going
down,
up and writing
or
and-
just yeah.
Yeah, I think we just all kind of go up and write down our thoughts and then, we just
We can
brainstorm from
discuss.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I
All
give
right.
you all Sharpies too.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we keep these?
Yeah.
They need to write bigger one, not just gonna read it.
Oh. Well, I'll do better. I didn't want to pick that one. Mine's the same size as yours.
Yeah, I know, yeah, I've been looking at.
Yours just looks smaller.
Yeah, I should do that too, because I write like this now.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know why. They say when you curl your hair, you probably really shouldn't have that. Really? Yeah.
Oh, well, at least, you know, you're not like this.
But I have to write on it.
Yeah, I started out left-handed, my grandpa said, nobody was standing left-handed.
Oh, wow.
So,
And it's really good for like, see, baseball. Like you wanna be that way, but
left-handed pitcher.
like my grandfather on my dad's side was left-handed, he taught all of his kids to that left-handed, so we all learned that.
Well, I bet.
But sometimes they don't feel like that. So just that right.
Okay.
Yeah, somehow I feel that
I just
way.
couldn't write.
Interesting screenshots. Oh, I can tell you, our public comments based on, it's really interesting. Oh, yeah, where's this?
Same place, we got spread out here.
Usually we go, oh, we
Do you know, I was cleaning out, cause I'm doing this remodel, so I was like, I came up with the folders that I've had like since the kids were in kindergarten. And I actually saved all of my original questions from 2012 from the newspaper of the school board, you know, when they were interviewing the candidates.
Oh, my
And that's
gosh.
exactly what I talked about.
Yeah.
That was 2012. This is 2022. And we're still talking about it.
And Jason.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, I'm an adjunct, is that with the D or J?
Spelling is not in any way tied
I guess
to
it's
technical
good to
studies
hear.
about that.
I've learned spelling every year that I took.
Now grammar, I would argue might be, but.
Everybody's got lazy.
Yeah. Yes, I have done every.
For another heart.
I'm gonna unwind everything.
Yeah.
That's a threat too.
Yes.
So we can talk about it on both.
would get into things like new football coach.
Well, here, we'll put that up here. Just kidding. Elections. Yeah. Yeah, because when it comes to electing, so, I actually texted you about this the other day, because, and that's what we were looking at, I believe. Those should be the kids doing film, doing practice assignments. Oh, see, we did, it was Eve, but there were only.
Ladies can read all that, huh?
And then Eve, what am I?
You,
Oh, so this would be.
So maybe I'll like just tack it right up there so both of us are scattered.
Yeah.
I know.
your celebration thing, I was used to put when town council would bring our athletes in and all that.
Well, and they're still doing
Thank you. As I think Jill was talking with that years, that in the parade for homecoming, we're in a discreet, now no one knows what it is, and the town council's there out in front of everything.
They were in front of us, and literally, we got in line that year, and there was like
Yeah.
25.
That's true though. There you go, roll it up.
Oh, I'll write in the third sign.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
It'll open up
It's a
more
great
conversation. Yeah, we can do that.
And I just wanted your guys' info first, so that's why I didn't go up there. Yeah. Want me to help you with those, or?
Yeah, so will we do one of these one at a time? This is
Pretty
probably
much.
a Wendy question. Okay, so how about if I stick one, like we'll just stick it right here?
That's good.
Will they be able to see it?
Okay,
People online,
no,
I don't know that where we would put it that they could see it,
yeah,
but we're gonna talk about them. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Here comes Judy. Okay.
Okay, we were just wrapping up, each of the board members was writing down, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So if you want to read through what we've written down and contribute anything further, there's a marker right there that you can use. We shifted strengths over here because this is the item that we were going to start with. So we'll start with the good and go to the ugly.
Yeah.
Well, I've already had a wicked morning.
I'm sorry to hear that.
My cockatiel died.
Who died?
Sorry.
Bird?
My cockatiel, my bird, my girl cockatiel. I have a male cockatiel. But, I thought because Remy is what her name was, she was having some balance problems. So that's why I was looking for where is she in the cage, where? She was laying down.
Oh,
dead.
that's too bad. Too bad.
And Adam said he would bury her for me. Did he do it? No.
The ground's, oh, I guess it did.
He'll get to it.
Yeah,
We'll
it
get
was,
to
it was, yeah.
But I
odd
wanted to get another cockatiel, and so I went to PetSmart. They have birds there, but they didn't have any cockatiels. Now, my daughter said, no, Mom, there is a place, that exotic birds, and it's on Scottsdale Road. As you're driving, you gotta do 101 south, and get on Thomas, get off Thomas.
Been there for a while.
Yeah, go to Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And in the right side of the road is where the exotic bird place is.
Hey,
So we're gonna-
on YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna keep moving forward with our strengths here. So, Kane, I see you are typing those in. Do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously our community is a huge strength, and just being supportive of the schools and supportive of teachers and initiatives. So continuing to build that with our community is really, I think, an important piece of this. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to do that, not only through our homecoming parade and our athletics and extracurriculars, but also through all the different organizations that we connect with, like Golden Eagle Foundation and Rotary and Kiwanis. And so what I'm gonna be working on, throughout the year is trying to strengthen those partnerships, build those partnerships, and look for additional opportunities to get our community involved in supporting what we're trying to do. I mean, there's definitely some themes with, you can see with the close community, and then that ties into obviously Golden Eagle Mentors. I can't read the bottom.
It says great teachers
Great
on the very
teachers,
bottom,
yeah,
students
so,
that love each other.
So building that community is a big part. I think we have a lot of still veteran teachers in the district who know what works in our schools and our community that we can build upon, and I'd like to see them continue to grow into more responsibilities, and we've seen that right now we have TJ's now taking on a coaching role, and Belle's moving into a dean of students role, and some of the teachers that I have met already come to us with some really great experience in areas like special ed and some of the clubs and things they sponsored at their previous schools. So build upon that. Boosters falls into, again, with the close community, meeting with them regularly, making sure that we're working together for common interests and common support. And I also think it's important for the schools to also be a part of those initiatives. Like a lot of times we ask the boosters over and over again for money, but the district's not maybe committed to that. So having part of our strategic plan, I would like something on athletics and extracurricular, because I think that is one area where we lose a lot of students in our district, is in those areas by either A, not offering it, or maybe it's not the level that parents would like that to be. And so they think there might be better opportunities somewhere else. And so if we could close that gap, I think that would help a lot too. So working with the boosters to feel supported is really important. I think that I've shared this with a lot of parents already, and one of the cool things about this town is when you look at athletics, is we have a newspaper that follows them. You don't get that anywhere else. And you finish a game and you're being interviewed afterward is pretty cool, and that happens pretty much at every home game. So I think that's a strength, that we have a local paper that follows our students and makes a big deal when they have success. I think there's areas for more clubs on campus, in the campuses. And when we get to consolidation talk, 6 through 12, that opens up some other doors as well with, having a middle school club and a high school club that are unique. I think that we have a strength of, and I think that'll be more in opportunities, but with the consolidation, do some things with honors and advanced placement classes that I see is up on the list. So the only other thing I would say, I'm just looking at here at the strengths. We got our students, and we have our, I think we have very supportive parents too. I don't know if that's
I don't know what says,
clear.
what does it say? Who wrote underneath?
That's great.
Great teachers.
Great teachers.
But yeah,
okay.
no, I think the community that embraces the school still has high expectations, but also has definitely an affinity for our district.
So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think so too.
They're very supportive of initiatives, and I always found that they're open to new ideas too, which is I think that's a strength for us, is that we can try some things that other larger districts maybe can't pull off just because of sheer numbers. And I go back to bringing an initiative to a single school. We have a handful of people to get on board with a new initiative versus maybe several. A large district may have 15 elementary schools to get on board with that initiative. That's a lot harder to do.
Yes.
So I think that's a strength for us, that we can bring about change faster. We can bring about change that is in line with the values of our community, and because of our numbers, it's a little easier to do that. I think that's another key. And at some point, as we've continued to shrink over the years, we have to just get more creative on what can we do that's outside the box and different, that you don't get somewhere else, that you get here, that attracts people to our school. So that's what I'm thinking all the time, is what are those things that we can do. So.
Well, I think that'll be a great conversation when we get to the opportunities, that, there's a lot of things up there that we can be creative with.
Other talk on strengths.
Can I just, only because I've been working with Jelaine, PTO, money for teachers, like what does that look like to you guys?
Well,
Exactly.
in past, I can only speak from past experience. I haven't actually been on the PTO board now for, 5 years. And they usually give $200 to each teacher at the beginning of the school year, that then the teachers can buy school supplies and things for their classroom. They have funded many programs. They used to fund Success Maker, things like that. I'm not sure exactly what they're funding right now. I know they fund, certain kinds of field trips, or programs that, maybe like a grade wants to do, like 4th grade or something like that.
They sometimes fund special,
Appreciation lunches.
appreciation
And
lunches.
lunches, right?
Sometimes fund, because there's times, because Golden Eagle does funding in the spring and fall for special projects for classrooms. And there are times that something a teacher will ask for will exceed the Golden Eagle limit, because our limit's like $750 per individual project. And so then sometimes the teacher can go to PTO, and PTO can help make up that difference.
Right. I know, they were doing the book fair,
Yes.
and providing, teachers' money, you know, like book money. The teachers could come in and pick out books for their classroom. Sometimes they were funding full sets of readers for classrooms, for especially at the lower levels. So yeah, that's.
And I'm sure it depends on, you know, what their budget looks like in terms of how much fundraising they were able to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, even with COVID, they kept going, so
Yes.
they have not lacked in fundraising, that's for sure.
Did you mention the homework labs? Don't they fund the homework labs?
They were
They were, when you were doing the homework
at
labs,
the at the elementary and the middle school. They
Yeah.
were helping fund Homework Hub,
Yeah,
Homework Hub? That's what it's called, Homework Hub?
something like that. Homework Lab, Homework Hub.
Okay.
And then they'll bring food for the Catch-Up Saturdays. They have had things before football games, giving away free ice
They
cream.
help decorate for the senior night in May. Just kind of like, if you have a need, you can ask PTO, and
Yeah.
often they'll step up and do it.
I send a note to them ridiculously too much, but they are always responsive, always wonderful, just,
Yeah.
they,
Anything that's education or teacher background is what they fund, because then they leave sports to
Yeah.
boosters.
Yeah. Well, Jelane's words to me were, we have plenty of money. You need to help me
They do.
spend it. So that's why I was just, asking for a little bit of elaboration on that.
And I think teachers need to realize that too,
Yes.
that it doesn't have, there are certain things, especially if it's something that a grade level can do, you know,
Yeah.
all of fourth grade, all of fifth grade or something like that, or like middle school science teachers, things like that, that they're more apt to fund programs. What they look at is, and what they've
Yeah,
always looked at is the percentage of students it impacts.
The level of
Because they can't focus on one student or a small group of students, because they generally focus on large groups. And so I think that teachers need to realize that PTO is a great resource if they can collaborate on a program or on materials or something like that, along with getting their $200 for supplies.
Great, thank you.
Very good, Jill.
Oh, thanks. I've done it for many years.
I'm proud of you.
It'll be 19 by the time I'm done with this. But who's counting? Should we move on to our weaknesses? That's gonna stem a bigger conversation.
Sure.
Do you want me to just kind of stack it on top?
Yeah, I can do that.
Or we can move that one. Here, I'll move that one.
Move the string. Put in a weakness.
Yeah. Can get retired to the back.
That way we can still see them.
You ladies are hired.
Finally, a paycheck.
See?
I know, we do get paid so much.
I know, right?
I
Like I
often see
said,
that, yeah.
19 years, $0. I don't even ever got a silver apple yet at this point, so I did get a plaque. Please don't buy me any more plaques. All right.
So I mean, the biggest thing I'm seeing right now is just retention. Retention is
Teacher retention,
it's,
coach retention.
everything. And
Which impacts our capability with some of the electives and the choices of classes that we can offer to students.
correct.
And this isn't, it's a nationwide program, it's
Problem,
a
yeah.
problem, this is not unique to our district. It is more visible in our district because a larger district loses a math teacher, and they quick shuffle things around and change the class size to 35 and nobody knows. But it's very evident in our district, when we lose a teacher. But it is, I don't honestly know if, unless things change drastically, I don't know if there's, for sure, that's not gonna be fixed anytime soon. Having enough teachers to fill the positions.
No, but we can do things to, we've discussed several times about, even with TJ, adjusting the way we present our salary offerings, our pay offerings, right? Because it's structured differently than it looks for other districts, and they kind of put it all in.
Right.
And we don't show the all in, and then people are like, why would I come to your district if you're paying maybe $10,000 less? It's like, no, we didn't put in all of
All the
the
prompt money
incentives
not in
and the,
there.
yeah, exactly. So then making sure that we give people a full picture and pay, and then, you know, I think doing a better job of presenting some of our strengths, like, and you get money from PTO, and we have strong, you know, boosters if you're a coach, and you have smaller class sizes, and you have opportunities because we've started, you know, even in the middle of a school year, a teacher comes and is like, I'd love to offer this club, or, you know, teach this to my students, and because we're a smaller district, we can make those pivots and incorporate some of the exciting and new things that a teacher might want to do that they can't really get through in a larger district.
Yeah,
You know,
we
it-
should probably put that on opportunities too. I didn't mean to interrupt,
No, you're
but
fine.
I actually did have someone talk to me yesterday about that they were like, oh my God, what did I sign up for? Because they got their contract and it was so low. And tried to explain that doesn't include your 301, your 301 money, you know, you're gonna get a huge check at the end of the year. And also, do you realize that our health insurance is significantly cheaper than other districts? And all of those things can be put into a contract very clearly. And the thing that really takes a bite out of teachers' salaries are their retirement fund. But having, especially a brand new teacher, yeah, it's scary right now, this percentage, but when you retire, this is what that package will look like. And there's, you know, other districts put together things like that all the time.
Well, and
So we
in all
need to
fairness,
copy that.
our contracts used to have things like that in it, and they were altered to not. So we
should
may need to
reassess.
reassess that, because like
Mm.
teacher stipends and things weren't added to their contracts, and so we lost some teachers because of that, because nobody would commit to the stipend.
Yeah.
So that's an issue in a small district when they are looking at their base salary.
Mm.
And what I was gonna say, to go back to Nadia, I'll keep my story quick, but Evan Dixon came here from Colorado. He was one of the best band teachers we ever had. And at back to school night, I was PTO president, and I said to him, oh, do you want to join the PTO? And he said to me, why would I want to join the PTO? And Ann Ciota wanted to crawl under the table because he had no idea who I was. And so I said, well, here, I'll give you this application. I'll send you an email on why you should join the PTO. And I sent him this long email, and he wrote back, I'm in. And he said to me, I have never worked at a school where I had so much parent support or anyone from the PTO give me money for things that I needed. And again, that's a huge thing here, is that our PTO is so generous, that our parents are so generous, that our parents are invested. You know, we need to get back to those days of, you know, the classroom moms. And granted, COVID did away with a lot of it, but we're out of that. We need to get back. And so parents want to volunteer. They want to come in and help. And we need to start using that as an asset and not pushing people out, because I think that's to our detriment. So.
Yeah.
We just, actually, we just talked about this yesterday with, I had a NEVIC meeting, and that got brought up. And so we started the ball rolling a little bit on, you know, the handing out, you know, these, you know, in the second semester, a total compensation of what you actually make when you factor everything in. And you're right about the health insurance is a big piece, and that can be very expensive for people. So it is. I found it to be lower as well, and then when you factor in that plus stipends plus the 301 and all those things, it is a little bit higher. So getting that perception out of what it really is important. So we've already started on that. Yeah,
And even our hourly employees can take the health care, is that correct? Do they get
As
health
long
care?
as they work, I believe, 30 hours?
Because that's another thing, is that like when we post those positions for custodians or aides or anything, and they're like, why would I work for $15 an hour?
But
You know, they're like, I can work at Chick-fil-A for $18 an hour. And I'm like, yeah, but Chick-fil-A is not gonna give you, you know, all of this other stuff. And it starts to kind of click a little more that we just have to be more vocal
yes.
about what the benefits are along with that hourly income that you get. And because, you know, my daughter graduated with a, you know, behavioral health science degree, and, you know, she's working with kids with autism. And I said to her, oh, you should look at the schools to see, you know, about even going in and being like a preschool aide or something. we couldn't match her salary.
Mm-hmm.
It would never happen. So,
What I found recently though, and I'll find out if our staff feels the same way, but I had a hard time the last couple of years getting people to take on additional things. The money wasn't as important anymore. Like
Yes,
it
yeah,
really
sure.
was about time.
Yes.
And about, how that work would be done. So we probably need to continue to be innovative and flexible in some of the positions that we have and how we can attract people for that. And then second of all, if we can offer, some teachers, I know I was one like that was very, you're really into your subject area. So if you could have, there's different pots of money, but if you have a lab that's pretty amazing, or you have a set of, like when we bought the virtual reality equipment, like if you're a tech teacher and you have a lab of Oculus VR equipment, that might mean more to you to work in that kind of environment with that kind of technology. So for the shortcomings we may have with some funding, we might be able to make up with that with our climate of our campuses, the way people are treated, and then also the opportunities they have to maybe teach what they really love or to expand on the things that they're interested in. And we've had a long history of a lot of people who have worked for the district for decades,
right.
and they did a lot of that was because they liked the field. It was convenient. Maybe they lived in town or close by, and so we just got to capture that back. And then for the people that are new to the profession is making it where you're not looking at other places because you're very happy here. And that's really where I think you get the retention piece in is how people feel about their job every day. And if they like coming to work, they like the people they work with, they feel supported, they feel their voice is heard, they feel like they can be innovative and empowered. So that is something that will be a priority for this year, for sure.
Well, and I think that goes with our unified is that, we talked about this out at the Fort McDowell meeting, is that, we have to be unified in leadership, teachers, students. It's a whole circle. And, with Evan, like you were talking about the labs and stuff, one of the reasons Evan liked working here, we eventually lost him because of money, but in the beginning, he liked working here because all students had their own instruments. He goes, I came from schools where students didn't have instruments. We had to figure out where to get instruments or share them. And so, again, that's, we have a lot of opportunities to fund those things with, the Johnson Family Foundation is very generous with us. Golden Eagle's very generous with us. PTO's very generous with us. So, and I think there are a lot of people in town. Ted Blank is very in, with the astronomy and the dark skies, and I know he's worked with Dr. Paul, that we could tap into to give ourselves a few more opportunities than, just the basic everyday education.
Something that Kane said about, teachers living in the community reminded me of an additional weakness that is both on the teacher side and the student side, and that's housing.
Yep.
And the price of housing, and that one of our weaknesses is that for people who don't live in town, the commute can be lengthy.
Yep.
And so then that can factor into whether or not they're going to take a position in this district, as well as the fact that when the housing price points are what they are, we're not really attracting young families with small children unless they are quite affluent and can afford to live in this community.
Well, and Dana's brought that up before, that's where, hopefully with the consolidation that we can, that by using money from capital and hopefully our bond, we can free up some of that M&O money, and we just have to make it a point to put it towards teacher salaries. And if you're paying well enough, they'll drive by those other districts to come here. But right now, we have a great district in the middle of nowhere, basically.
They can live in the ghetto with Dana.
I'm sure Dana's ghetto is pretty expensive.
I'm quite certain it is.
It's awesome, just so you know.
Just had to say that.
I will forever live in the ghetto.
I know. I know, Jill,
The unified, what's the weakness in unified you were
That
going after?
we say
So
it,
here,
but we don't
I
live
talked
it.
about it like out at Fort McDowell. So, and I was just telling them, when I ran for school board in 2012, I had been a parent in this district for 7 years. And for 7 years, I watched, you know, the second graders not know what's gonna happen at Four Peaks when they got to third grade. And I watched the fifth graders not know what's gonna happen at the middle school. There is no communication between the next grade or the next school. And I see it at the breakfast, even when we go for the staff breakfast.
Yeah.
There's the
It's
South
siloed,
Mountain,
yes.
there's the middle school, there's the high school. We're all one district. You all need to learn each other. We all need to collaborate. This should be a team effort, preschool through 12. We all work here in this district. And it's amazing to me how much segregation there is, and it drives me insane. I am very passionate about this. I talked
Really?
I talked about it in the newspaper in 2012 when I ran, that was one of our big weaknesses, is that we are a unified school district. We are not single schools. And for we lost, you know, when we had 4 schools, we lost so many kids between 2nd and 3rd grade, or 5th to 6th grade, and 8th to 9th grade. Because it was a great transition period, because they didn't really know anything about the next school and they didn't care. And so part of that was making the whole district Falcons. That if we could get the elementary kids excited about being Falcons by the high school kids, that they're like, I always want to be a Falcon, as opposed to you are a Bobcat and then a Jaguar
Yeah.
and then a Falcon. It's like, it's still unbelievable to me that to this day, I still hear the same thing. Well, we're in 8th grade. I have no idea anything about the high school. How do you not know about the high school? Why aren't we talking to people? And if we are talking to people, we're not talking to enough of them.
I know,
Okay, I'll get off my soapbox.
we had a discussion years ago about neighborhood schools. So we're gonna have 2 elementary schools, K-6, back in those days.
Yeah.
And that went nowhere. And for the reasons that everybody wanted the entire class to be in one location,
Yeah.
so that their friends were always there and so forth. Well, you know, going back to that, then we created these transitions. Back in the day, we had 2nd to 3rd, and 5th to 6th, and 7th to 8th, and 8th to 9th. And those transitions were killing us, as you said. That's where we lost people.
They still are, Dana. 20 years later,
Yeah.
they're still killing us.
I was thinking the Taunton Hills Unified School District. I'm thinking, well, we've been unified since day one.
No, it's the fact that no one recognizes the unified
Yeah,
part of it.
okay,
We're just
now
the Fountain Hills School District.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Anything else on weaknesses? I mean, we
SPED.
didn't- Yeah.
I think we need to talk about SPED.
I agree.
That's probably a huge thing in our district is, and, you know, I know Dr. J's well aware of it, and I'm really excited for the new middle school principal, that she has a background in special ed. I feel like sometimes, we have great special ed teachers.
Yes.
It's not their fault, but I think we just need to do a better job again with transitioning SPED kids, with making sure that that the 504s are followed, the IEPs are followed, that we're not behind on those reports, that people are following the law, and that they're well aware of what the law is for our special education students, because that has been a huge issue in this district.
Yeah.
And someday it will come back and bite us if we don't bring that up to par.
Absolutely.
And it has come back to bite us over the years when we had to
Yeah, the
spend
liability.
close to $100,000 for one student.
We get additional money, not enough,
But
but,
yes.
you know, I hear that a lot. Well, you get money for my student.
Not-
Yeah, it never covers the full education of a special education student. However, if we can't provide the services, we have to make sure that we're finding those services.
Yes.
Like I said, you know, my daughter works for a center, and, you know, they're basically doing like, I forget what it's called, but it's basically like an early intervention of autistic children, so that, you know, those students won't hopefully need as many services when they get to elementary school. If we do have students that need services, there are resources out there. We need to start using them and making sure that we're on top of them.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and, you know, principals have to be instructional leaders at each school.
Yeah.
They need to go to meetings for SPED students. That is an expectation
We're required.
Well, they don't do it. They don't. Or they didn't. We won't talk about, I mean,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
year is a
let's
fresh
be
slate,
forward.
but they weren't.
Future
So
facing.
under our high expectations.
Obviously, you can't go to every single one, Dr. Days, you talked about, you know,
But there
in
should
a
be a
school
rep.
of 1,000 kids, but in our small school, between a principal, an assistant principal, or a dean of students, someone should be there to represent the school level. It is a forward-facing, important piece for parents to see that everyone is involved in their kids' education.
And it's a requirement.
There is, it's a
It
requirement.
is.
There were weeks when I spent 2 a day for 2 weeks every day for 2 weeks. Those take 6 hours
Yeah.
in some cases. But I think, just on this is a little off the subject, but in terms of SPED in the self-contained room that we had at McDowell, I didn't know I didn't see that on the map, middle school for the future.
On the K-5, it's
It
there.
was there. I
Yeah.
remember talking about it with Dr.
I
Smith.
missed it.
Yeah,
I'm just
it's there.
I mean, I always told school board members, the first 2 weeks of school, you need to spend about half a day in that room, and your whole life will change. I did it every year. And just the stories behind those little kids, you know, crash you.
And that's, you know, it's another area that is hard to fill. We've had a hard time getting a preschool special education teacher. And I think we had a hard time getting a self-contained special ed teacher at McDowell Mountain. So, you know, and our special education self-contained room at the high school used to be amazing. And again, we need to bring that back and, you know, get back to doing the things that made that program so successful. I used to love watching the kids walk to Safeway and the cashiers working with them on counting money. And I mean, it's just, they were so patient with them and watching their garden grow. And, you know, those are real life skills that, you know, they have to learn reading and writing and science and everything. But those are things that can enhance their education. And I want to see that come back. So,
Yeah, and to the unified point, I think, the thing that's on there, and I wrote, consistency. Consistency with discipline, consistency. If we're gonna use beyond textbooks, we have to do reteach, right? It's criminal
You're right.
that we did not do that last year.
well, especially with the amount of money we've put into that program.
Yes. You know, and being able to offer things, you know, at each of the schools.
It was very disappointing that we didn't have reteach, especially from, you know, those of us just hearing from our own kids, their like aha moments with
Yes.
taking a formative and then having to go to reteach and like actually learning the content and then retaking the formative and like, wow, like I didn't just move through and go through the motions and keep progressing through math without understanding the material. I actually understand the material.
Right.
It's coming back.
We know, we're probably preaching to the choir.
No, but I met with the math
Yeah.
department yesterday at the high school to start there. I'm a firm believer in, you know, when you're bringing about change, that you go at a pace where you can have success and then build upon
Right.
it. So we're gonna, just like years ago, start with math and then build into English and then build from there and have some success. The good thing is that model, from that time period, you know, 75, or what, two or three of those teachers
Yeah.
are still here. So they know what's going on, and I met with them, and really it comes down to, for them, is they need a commitment of transportation, which we can
Yeah.
do. And then second is a commitment to the accountability if you don't go,
Yeah.
which we can do. And then the commitment from athletics to allow the kids to go and not be penalized. And so all those things have been already, I talked to Evelyn, that was one of the first calls I made, was to her about, you know, just plan for this to be back, because it's important for the high school. Now, for the middle school and the elementary, we had to be a little bit more creative. I think the middle school, I'm gonna work with Kim on a few ideas I have for the middle school, especially 6th, 7th, and 8th, but when they come to the high school, it'll be much easier.
Right.
Because they could be on the same program as the high school, like it's just ingrained from 6th grade on, then I have to go. And I remember hearing my kids talk about in middle school, I'm having to go to reteach, and I would smile that you know, I knew what it was and I knew what they were doing and it was important for them. And then at the elementary, you know, my plan is probably to go down to Vail for a day and meet with Brent and his team and maybe spend most of the day in the elementary and see how they do it well down there, because that's the area where I want to learn more about how they do that. But you're right, the consistency, and that's something I'll work really hard on this year, is consistency of beyond textbooks across the board, PBIS across the board, discipline. We're going to review the code of conduct this year. I don't even know if we have a code of conduct. I know we have like a behavior, like a student handbook, but probably need to really create a code of conduct that is a little bit more updated. For PBIS, we have the new app coming in, which will provide some consistency from 4th through 12th grade, and then we'll decide if the consolidation takes place, you know, what we do with 4th and 5th grade if they're a K-5 school. I do think that at the younger levels, it's really important to get something tangible like a falcon feather.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had some volunteers in the community working with Kevin and his team on you know, boosting PBIS and doing some things with it that maybe have not been done in the past. So he's really excited about that, and I think the app will be a game changer. I've seen it in use, and when you know, when you can scan an ID or do it from your laptop at the front of the classroom, I really think the hard part's going to be is figuring out the currency. Like, that's the hard part. Like, what does 5 points get you?
Yeah, right.
Because you don't know until teachers start handing out points. Like, you know, a parking pass, you put in 100 points, and then 2 days later, a kid's got 100 points. That's, you know, it really wasn't as valuable. So we may have to open the store, or we may have to update pricing. We're going to be proactive with the kids. Like, pricing might change as we figure this out, because we don't know until we get there. But we'll start out with that. I think that'll provide some consistency. But I do agree that should be a goal for us across the board.
And to go with your, when you were talking about like going down to Vail about the elementary school, you weren't here yet, but the McDowell teachers did come, a couple of them came and talked to us that beyond textbooks isn't working for them, that they really like Seesaw. So I think the board would just like you to make sure that, you know, is there a way to make beyond textbooks work for them? Or do we not know enough about it that you're gonna find out about it at the elementary school? Or are we forcing something upon them that's really not elementary level?
Yeah, you don't want to ever force. You're never going to get anywhere
Right.
if staff's not on board with it. We're not going to be productive. I think some things it really comes down to the way they're rolled out, and the way that there's buying into it or understanding the why behind everything. So I do have a session for back to school on beyond textbooks and on PBIS, along with one on just general high expectations. So I'm going to speak to them 3 different times. And then I told all of our team that, you know, we're trying to pack everything in these 4 days, but we have every Wednesday. So, like, we really don't have to pack everything in. Like, let's get some things done, but then let's revisit these on Wednesdays. And my hope is to be out to different sites on Wednesdays doing professional development on those areas as well. So.
Yeah, and I would recommend 2 things. One, beyond textbooks, has an amazing resource for families that I don't think families know about.
Yep.
And again, we need to make things easily accessible for people. People are busy. People, send, every couple Falcon Focuses, send a link to one of their resources that they have. There's that, and then also the messaging. I mean, I remember middle school when it was rolled out, going to parent-teacher night, and I'm pretty sure, Dr. J, you were there as Mr. J, and the teachers got up and were like, yeah, we have this beyond textbook things, we don't know anything about it, we'll maybe tell you later, but we just found out, and the messaging was so incredibly unprofessional and negative that you're never going to get people on board with something like that. So just making sure that the messaging is appropriate and that
and what it is, and that's the biggest thing.
People
a lot
do
of people
not,
think that you go on there and it's this curriculum, and And it's really about a state of mind more than anything. I mean, the whole idea, if you spend time with them, and what they did is they looked at, we're a struggling district back in those days, so Vail was struggling, and they thought, how can we think outside the box, what can we do? And they came up with this idea of just basically, it was a PLC, is all it really was. It was collaboration among teachers that we're all gonna be on the same page, but we're gonna house this somewhere so everyone can use it. And then they got the idea, well, why don't we sell that now to all these smaller districts that don't have teams, curriculum teams, which is where I came in and said, we don't have a curriculum team, so let me see what you got. But beyond just the fact that there's a ton of resources for teachers, especially new teachers that don't have as much, in their tool chest yet, they have that available all the time. But the other piece is there's a lot of trainings that are free. So like I'm on the site right now, and August 12th, Vail, Snowflake are both offering BT 101, and then Snowflake and Vail are offering classroom management. So you can send a teacher who's struggling with classroom management, or maybe needs a little,
First-year teachers.
First year,
Yeah.
that would be
Or
great
even
for them.
second-year teachers.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
don't know what
Anybody
they don't
who-
know.
Because they don't get that anymore in college. There's no
No.
classroom
So
management
you
class.
can
Yes,
send them down
ASU
there.
ASU took out their classroom management class 10 years ago.
So they do this throughout the year. They have they have their super conference coming up in September. I have sent teachers to these in the past, and something we'll look at doing, and a lot of them now are virtual. And so what they do also is if you go to them, they have little incentives, like some people win like a gift card or something, like they do little things like that. And then they do lesson submission. So they'll do a contest, and the best lesson submitted, they'll give them a monetary value out of, I think it might even be $1,000 for that lesson that was selected as one that's gonna go in there, into their system. So there is a parent section, and that is something we could talk to principals about. We can put that on our agenda. There's a parent portal where they can go on and take a look at it, what's on there. But really what it comes down to more than anything, and what sold me on it, is it just allows the teachers to have a true plan of how to teach the state standards in a logical order, in a logical time frame, and then the intervention pieces that go with it. So if I struggle with a quiz on on that Friday, in most schools across the country, you're going in on Monday with a new topic. You didn't get it, and that's it.
Keep moving.
So the idea when we brought it years ago was, okay, now we're gonna pause you, and you're gonna go back on Tuesday and Thursday, and you're gonna relearn it, you're gonna retake that quiz, we're gonna give you the higher of the two scores, so there's an incentive for you to come. And then you're most likely gonna get it the second time. When we looked at data in those days, it was like 95% of kids the second time got it. And that's when our scores really skyrocketed. And then the 5% that still didn't get it, then they come to the Saturday catch-up room, they come to the intensive. Ms. Day used to do those for me,
Yes.
and we can do some of those things again. So starting at the elementary level, that's where we gotta really figure out reteach at K3. Like, how do you do that in an effective way to make sure that they're not falling behind, and then that just trickles all the way to high school. And that's where the high expectation comes in. We're gonna have kids affected by the last 2 years of whatever we call it, online learning, or, COVID years, whatever, but it's gonna be there for the next 10 years, and we have to get beyond it. Like, we have to still have high expectation and get back to our scores where they were. And so consistency is very important, and we'll put some things in place. And if a year from now, consistency's still on the list, then I'll be disappointed. But we'll get there.
We do have money set aside in the ESSER grant to send, I believe, teachers from all 3 sites to the super conference.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, if my memory is serving me correctly, the elementary school teachers liked the standards. They liked being able to see that and check that off. I think their concern was there weren't as many resources available
that
for
was
them
fine.
to
Well, and whatever
supplement the
Seesaw,
materials
they like
have.
Seesaw better than Beyond Textbooks, so whatever
But I think-
Seesaw does.
I think they're different though, and that's the
Okay.
thing, I think you could have both. I think the Seesaw probably provides them more of the curriculum and resources, where Beyond Textbooks is again about, I'm looking at second grade right now, and if I click math, I can see, I can see the standards and how long and what a highly proficient student should be able to do.
Yeah, see, it's not a
So-
curriculum.
It's not.
That is
Framework
the
and an
main
approach.
people.
Right.
And I
It's a
wouldn't
resource.
expect someone who doesn't have an education degree to understand the difference between curriculum and, so those are words that we throw around a lot that I don't think everybody understands, teachers understand. But it is a resource, it is not a step-by-step how to teach something.
It's not, and,
Right.
and what I like about it, even, I'm on second grade here right now, so the highly proficient student can describe and create a number from 0 to 999 using ones, tens, and hundreds. But there is the formative assessment on here for the teacher right away to be able to print, use, they don't have to create that, and it's ready to go. And then there's the second quiz for the reteach that has the same material, and it's just rewritten so that it's not the same exact answers.
Right.
And what I'm just finding out, I've been on this in a couple years, but they look like
It's
they
a
moved them
Google
to
form.
Google, which
Yeah.
is
Ah,
huge.
yeah,
It's like,
that
I'm
is
very excited now, because I told our teachers years ago, if you put these in Google and do the front end work, it'll probably grade it for you, at least the first, because it's always,
quiz, if you,
well, the quiz is always three multiple choice and 2 extended response.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, you can guess on a couple of answers, but you can't guess on the extended
written.
response. But if you put if you put 60% is your cutoff for reteach, we had it at 80% at the high school, because we thought you should have 8 out of 10 to really know the material. But if you do it through this, and they miss the first 3, you really don't even have to look at the other 2 right now. You can look at them later, but you can put them on the list for reteach, because they already missed the first 3, and they need to be there now. So that's really encouraging, that I had to sign in to see the form, and I'm really excited about that. But I think that's what we need to do, is get because when we brought it, Ms. D didn't want it, and I respected that, because she did all this.
Right.
This was her thing, is curriculum, and she was strong at it. And she was leading the whole district in priority standards, and she was excellent at that. So when I went to her, I said, I hope you understand, this is not about you at all. I don't have your skills, and this isn't in place for me, and we have to get these kids going now. And so the agreement then was that the McDowell Mountain would not take it on. And so it's fine that they have, but I'll meet with their teachers and administrators and make sure they feel comfortable with it. But I think it can definitely be a combination of, this is our quizzes, this is our standards, this is how long we do it. If Seesaw provides great opportunities to do the work, make it easy for them and let them have it.
And they came, Beyond Textbooks came into McDowell during COVID, so
Just
there's
really
probably
hard.
not a lot of professional development that
Sure.
happened, which again goes back to our weaknesses, that sometimes being small, not having subs, which that should be on there too.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
That, one, we don't have a lot of subs, but 2, per an email that we received, I'm sure everybody got it at some point, that we don't pay very much for the subs, that other districts are paying more. So that may be something we want to look at.
It's already
That-
been started.
Perfect. No, we need to talk about that.
Yep.
The other thing that's on there that we were kind of all talking about is the perception equals reality, squash of rumors, misinformation, social media and stuff. We're never going to combat that fully as a district, but communication from the district is so important. And that's the only way we can get out the positive and the truthful information, as opposed to people just chit-chatting and, starting rumors on Facebook and the Connection and wherever they decide they want to put garbage. My kids went there 20 years ago and this is how it is. And it's like, okay, we're not 20 years ago, so that stuff drives me nuts. But
Every high school student is smoking pot in the
yeah.
bathroom.
Heroin Hills, and yeah, we heard it all.
Yeah, they wouldn't even know how to walk in the front door of the high school, but you're right, I mean, it is, And that goes towards celebrating our successes.
Right.
Because we have
And I was just
some
gonna talk about that
great,
too.
great kids here. Like,
Exactly.
I would never, you know, my sophomore is my perfect example. Like, the friends that he has made here are amazing, such a good influence on him. Like, it's a perfect fit for my kids. It might not be the perfect fit for other
It's
people's
not one
kids,
size fits all.
but it is the perfect fit for my kids. And they're, you know, I talked to the football coach last night, and he was like, I've worked at 4 different school districts. I've never coached a football team where these kids would literally do anything for each other.
Right.
He was like, I've never seen anything like it. And Mike, it's a small school. Most of these kids have known each other since kindergarten. But we don't get that. You get the kid who had a bad experience, or a kid who, you know, like, and that perception becomes a reality. And we need more people who, I think one of you mentioned, that are ambassadors for that. You know, that there are great things that are happening. Our AP classes. I mean, for being so small, the fact that we have as many AP classes, and we have Capstone, and we have Avid, I mean, that is incredible. Like, that, talk about college, career, readiness. I mean, we have those programs that bigger
Right.
schools don't have, so celebrating that.
But I think, you know, like, I kept waiting, and not to pick on you, Krista, because I know it's partly under your umbrella, but like, I kept waiting for the back to school information on the Facebook page for the district.
We don't have one right now.
Yeah.
They killed it. Facebook killed our Facebook page. They
Well,
deleted it.
gee,
What's
That's terrible.
unbelievable?
So Kate and I have talked about it. I'm not a social media person.
Yeah, no, I know.
I don't even have social media. So we know that that's something that we need to address. But yeah, it was considered a gray account, so they deleted our accounts. So you
Oh
can
my
still
God.
see it,
Right.
but you only see the end of school year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of times when that, you know, that would come out, then I would share it like through the connection or the
Yeah.
community bulletin board page, because, you know, it, like, other people have it on their own pages, but if you're not friends with them, you can't see
Yeah.
it and stuff. And so, you know, I loved sharing those successes or that information, but I can't share it now because I don't get it, so.
So we definitely need to address that, and we'll probably have to find someone who would be willing to take that on and do kind of like a stipend or something for that position, have a social media presence.
You know how many high school students have independent studies, or their TAs for the guidance counselor or something, because they already have their credits? This is a position where there's gotta be a high school student who could do this.
And
for
you
free.
guys actually approved a job description for a student worker,
Yeah.
and one of them, the intent was to do technology and
Yeah.
social
Right.
media.
Yeah, why, I mean,
So-
they're good at it.
So yeah, that'll be a priority to get a better presence there. We have started updating the website. You
It
know,
looks good, I noticed.
We're I mean, I have access now, which is really cool. You know, it's a
God.
little, well, it's a little bit like, you know, you have to request a lot of things to be done, but they are pretty quick at getting back. So we did, like, our latest Falcon Focus is now there. We gotta get it on the front page. It's on the Falcon Focus page, but if you don't know to go there, you wouldn't. So we tried it. We're trying to reduce clicks and make sure it's just right there, hits you when you get there.
Yep.
But all of our welcome back letters are now on there. We did our Falcon Focus this year. I had all the principals send their letters together. So if you're a parent of 3 different schools, you got all the letters in one location, unified, you know, trying to
Yeah,
get to
exactly.
that. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
That's
But-
right.
But I have 2 kids at 2 different schools. So we wanted it to be like that, and the principals came through and did a nice job, got that to Krista, and then we put it together, got that out last week. So they all received it, but now we just need to get it front and center on the front page. We also, on the idea of celebrations, we asked them we're gonna start, let's see, the high school, I know they did theirs. We asked them to put the banners at the top so they hit you right away instead of at the bottom.
Yeah. Nice.
So, and there's 2 more coming, because we were a national best school in 2022. And then we did have the letter grade was in 2020,
Yeah.
still an A, so we gotta update that. And the A plus is really hard to see with that background, so we just gotta put a little background on it. But, and And then we asked at the elementary school to put at least the A+ on there. I forgot that McDowell does not get a letter grade, at least they didn't in the old days.
Yeah.
Because
They
they're
still
only
don't.
K3.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they will with this new model, but they're supposed to be putting that on here soon too, so.
But yeah, Mrs. D and her staff worked hard for their A+, so.
They were an A-rated school though. If you look at their scores.
Yeah.
Here's how you know they're an A-rated school. They got results-based funding.
Right.
When you get results-based funding, you're an A-rated school. And not everyone gets it, and so the fact they were getting about 40 or 50,000 a year in that, it was a testament to her curriculum and her test scores. So that's definitely, you know, I know we can't technically say they were an A school,
Yes,
but
right. But they have their A+
They do
from
have
the
their A+.
Arizona Education Association,
correct. they do.
so
Yep, and
we
then you
can,
don't get
we
that.
can
piece.
celebrate that.
And I got to be on the other side of that this year as a judge at a school.
Oh, yes.
I got to see the other side of it, and it's pretty intensive. So it was kind of interesting to see the other side of it. So we will update. I think aesthetically, though, the site looks very nice with all the
Yes.
video and the imagery of our sites and the town, and so that'll be something that we'll continue to build upon. It's making sure it's more updated in that first splash screen, so you know where to go as a parent. Yep.
Can I go back to beyond textbooks?
Yeah.
I'm not really up on that. Is that our LMS as well?
Like you mean in Power School?
Well, Power School would be an LMS,
Yeah.
but it's part of a larger system.
Well, it's,
And like Blackboard or Canvas?
no, because it's their property. So there's, I don't know why you all don't have passwords to get on there. You should. So maybe that's something we need to do, is ask them for you to all have access to Beyond Textbooks, so you can look at it as well. You should already have it, but it is its own, it is really its own system. Like when you get into it, you know, you can go around and pick what you want to do. So if you're a high school teacher, you go there and then you pick your subject area. But there's a special ed section, there's additional resources, parents, there's trainings, a lot of their trainings that they, like the classroom management they'll do on August 19th, they may have that available just on replay. And you don't have to send anyone anywhere, they could just do it on a Wednesday early release. And then they get a certificate that they completed it, and then they can get movement for that. So it's kind of its own LMS in a way. And
Does it enable parents to see attendance and
No.
grades?
No,
It's just a
Do we
learning
have
resource.
an LMS that does that?
yeah, so Power
Power
Schools.
So we use Power
The
School.
portal for parents, yes, you can
Power
see that, and then you should get, depending on the grade level, you get a notification of attendance by a certain period of time. So the younger they are, I think it's a faster notification than high school. It's usually by period, like your child was absent for one or more periods. You get that call
So we subscribe to Power.
consistently, depending on,
Yeah.
I know I got it.
Yeah, because apparently 18-year-olds think they can sign themselves out, but they can't always, yeah.
Yeah, not always, but they can.
They legally can,
Yeah.
but we try to make it a little harder.
I told my kids that unless I signed a note, they couldn't, and I'm not signing the note.
But yes, they do have access to that.
So we use Power School, we don't use Power Teacher?
They do, the teachers use that for their grade book.
They do.
Yes, and then the Power, so,
Do they use Power Teacher Pro?
I don't know what they're up to now, but it used to be an app, and then it was transitioning to a web-based.
Yep.
So I believe it's all web-based now. So I only go into the admin side. I haven't really been in the teacher side, but I know, I find it, of all the ones I've used, I find it the easiest for me to
Yeah.
use.
Well, it's most widely used in Arizona.
It is, and they're the ones that also, they're, what I liked about them more than anything was their benchmark. The benchmarks through Beyond Textbooks, we share theirs, but it's through Power School, through Power Test. And so
So the two talk to each other?
they do. So when a kid goes in to take their benchmark, which I monitored very closely as principal, and we will get all of our principals to do that, have those data meetings. But I would be sitting in my office on benchmark days waiting for the classes to come in so we could chart it, because we were really excited about, are we making growth? Did we have a step back this month? But yes, that is a really good program, and it's all lined up through, so Vail does all that for us. So when people look at the price tag or they ask, why do we do this? It really comes down to, we don't have a curriculum department. It's Chris and I, and that's about it. And so it allows us to do things that we couldn't do.
And that's the textbook thing, and
Yes,
beyond textbook.
that's
So,
part of it.
And in Canvas, which is widely used as well, there is a sharing of curriculum.
Yes.
And so our version of that is beyond textbooks, right?
No, our version of that is PLP. And that's another, that's what I'm
It's
saying,
not
you get
vetted.
into so
You
many.
can share things, but
Right.
about the
What's
beyond
PLP?
textbooks is
What
all
is
vetted.
So
Which is
PLP is the learning, like the curriculum piece that was,
That's what we used as the virtual platform for the students
Is
in the
PLP.
Fountain Hills Virtual Academy.
but what it is become is, it is in every classroom, and every teacher goes through that system. So it is like Google Classroom or
Okay.
Canvas. And so the question will be, is that something that we like and want to renew, or is that something we want to go in a different direction? So we will not make that decision, executively. That'll be a collaborative, conversation with
rightfully
everyone.
so,
Because a
yeah.
lot of people put time and effort into building their classes, and we don't want to take that away from them. But we also got to get off screens. That's really important to me, that, we're not doing basically school online in a building. We should be doing projects and getting out of our seats and engagement. Yeah, those are huge things. So we did IPI for years. That'll be something we might bring back in year 2. We got a lot going on right now to add one more thing, but IPI is just a way for teachers to assess engagement of their peers and have conversations without the administrators in the room.
Well, as a teacher, all the things you just rattled off.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. It is.
For example,
So-
we had Power Teacher, and Canvas, that was it.
Well, Power Teacher and Power Test are almost the same platform, so it's pretty easy. It would just be that we have Power School for grades. Those are the easy ones. Then you got the PLP, and then you got the Beyond Textbooks, which are 2 extra steps and there's really not much you're gonna be able to do with Beyond Textbooks because of the copyright of it.
It's a resource, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not a
It's not the
platform, so-
curriculum, and that's the key.
And the Virtual Academy, does that still exist?
It is, that's another project I worked on this week, and we're working on a lot, is, we are having, Melinda Rogers is gonna take over as the kind of administrator of the program, because she has the most experience working with online and working with our kids, and has had, at least in my experience, had great success at getting kids through, graduation rate. So we're down to about 40 kids that are signed up. I had the administrators call every parent this last week and ask them if they wanted to come back to school and not be online. And if they are adamant about being online, we'll take care of them. And I've had some conversations with other school districts about how they do it. That was the number one thing on Dr. Sweeney's list for me, is about virtual academy that needs a lot of work and attention. So we've started that process and looking at it. I think having someone just with their eyes on it every day, which is what Melinda's now going to do. She'll make sure attendance is taken, that the seat time is accurate, that kids are not sitting and not doing any work. She'll be calling parents and monitoring them daily. And that's something I think that has been missing according to what's been shared with me.
Has North Central approved that?
Which one? Our academy?
Virtual academy?
Yes, I'm pretty sure
Because that.
it gets a letter grade, so if it gets a letter grade.
Your predecessor couldn't answer the question.
I can check. I mean, right now,
Your job is here. He
me
needs to
see.
get his own ride. And I would say, I know, we talked a little bit about this, but something we probably need, maybe it was you that I said something to look at our policy again because of COVID, graduating with highest distinction. There's some confusion because you can only take so many classes virtually. Well, our kids had no choice.
Right.
So we need
So
to
we need
revise
to make
I'm already meeting
exceptions,
with
yeah.
parents on that.
Okay.
I've had 2 already come see me. So maybe we put that in updated focus if you're concerned about that. we're not gonna take that away from kids.
That's, yeah,
Of
but
course not,
you
yeah.
don't always, but we don't want a situation where
We don't want it to
it's a
also,
black and white and people don't understand it,
Correct.
yes, so.
so we wanna know you, so what we'll probably do is do an appeal process of, fill out a form, tell us what happened, what you were promised, or what you did not do, or why you did what you did.
Right.
And for a short window of time due to the pandemic, I think we can not take that away from kids who worked hard for it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because some kids did amazing work
Right.
virtually, and we need to
And we
make
might
sure
need to
that-
look back at, but when that was put in, that was to, I talked to Tom Lawrence about that years ago. And when that was brought in, it was concern about, really it came down to these online courses at the time, and this was, probably, late, early 2010s, that time period, there was no final exam for a lot of those tests. So you didn't know you didn't know if the kid actually knew the material.
Yeah.
And so that's why they put that rule in, that if you take it from an online provider that does not have a proctored final exam, you would then have to take our final exam and get a 70% or better. And I checked every district years ago on that, because I had an issue with that. And every district around us has the same policy in the ASBA policy. So it's pretty uniform. But I think the highest distinction was put in to combat kids taking maybe a class online. Was that equivalent to doing it with
Yeah,
Mr.
right.
Sunshine or whatever, So now that online has really improved, and it's not what it was 10 years ago, we might need to be more flexible in what we can do with that in general. Because we also have times with the high school master schedule where you just can't fit a kid into a class, and it's
Exactly.
not their fault.
Right.
And so we say, hey, the only option is online for this, we're not gonna, take away that,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I
That's an
have
easy
that
one.
up on the opportunities, because I want to talk about more opportunities with the virtual academy. But one thing with beyond textbooks, and I know Wendy's going to agree with me on this, is
I do.
I know you do. It goes to the consistency with the formatives. We either grade them all and they go in the
Yeah.
grade book, or we grade none of them and they don't go in the grade book. But this pick and choose of this teacher does it and this teacher doesn't do it.
Agreed.
That's some of them are
horrible for
grading
kids, yeah.
formatives and they go in the grade book and they tank the kid's grade. And so then they can't play sports because they tank their grade on a formative that they're gonna have to go to reteach for. And it's like a vicious circle.
Yeah, or
But then you have the teacher next door that goes, no, I don't put those in the grade book. So either everybody does it or
Yeah.
nobody does it.
And the kids don't understand, like a 3 out of 5 might be passing on the formative, but if it goes in the grade book, that is a failing grade.
Right,
And
it's a
pulls
weighted,
kid- Yeah, so
it
like,
tanks them.
Well, and-
some kids who do things
Beyond-
the easy way
yeah,
would say, I got a 3 out of 5, I didn't have to go to reteach, so I'm
Right,
sticking
so
with
good.
it, and then
Well,
you're
that's why we went to 4,
yeah.
number
Yeah.
one.
okay.
And then number 2 is, even if you got a 4, we gave kids a chance to come back and get 100.
Sure.
So you could improve your grade. But yeah, the consistency of that, and really 60% in my mind is you do not know the material.
No,
No.
exactly.
So that's why we
Especially
went,
because if it's multiple
you could have
choice,
got 3
that
right.
is,
Yeah, so
right.
that's why you gotta go to 80. And again, that's the high expectation piece. If you set the bar high.
Yeah.
And you come up short, you're still better than you were if you set it down here.
Right.
And that's the mindset change. Fountain Hills Online is an accredited school with the Department of Ed, at least that's what I see on a quick search. Virtual
But how
Academy
about
is
our
not listed.
Accreditation in North
So
Central?
Fountain Hills Online, back in years ago, was an accredited, Dr. Allen did a lot of work with that to get it
Right.
through, and so did Patrick. So I know because I can see their report card. If they have a report card, then they're through. Virtual Academy is not listed on here, so that'll be a priority for us, it may just be, we have to change the name, because it's really the same program.
Yeah.
It just has a name change, and we just may have to do that, but that's something we can look into, but.
And I remember that we had that on one of our
I
board
swear
agendas.
to,
We,
yes,
we had to be
Involved
involved
in
in
that.
approving that we changed the name from Fountain Hills Online to Fountain Hills
It was
Virtual
Virtual
Academy.
So maybe it's just a simple thing, is we just gotta write a letter to say,
Our name is different.
correct, but I did see paperwork that looked really well done on the handbook for Virtual Academy, that looked like a lot of steps were taken to get that done correctly. So some we can check on.
Anything else on weaknesses before we shift
No,
to
I think
opportunities?
we've beaten that one to death.
Okay, do we wanna take a quick,
Yes.
restroom break before we?
Not fair, because it was one, two of us.
All of a sudden, my nose just like got congested sitting here.
Yeah.
Krista,
Yeah.
I'll leave this here.
You can just set it right there on top of the other one.
Oh my gosh, you have a bunch of.
Oh, good.
But
that's all it is.
it's not adjourned.
It's 13 and it's a.
But Adam wanted me to go home.
You know, I
So
talked
I
to you
just,
about
I just
that.
wondered, because I wanted to see what's up. I remember when they had that class, separate room.
Right.
in one of them.
Unless Kane lets me go.
And,
What's
I'm like, what
What's
is
up?
up? These are
What's
shit.
Good, unless Kane
So,
lets
they
me
go
go.
deep. And it's 200, you know, couple hundred, I mean, it's big, it's like free, and it literally has 15 seats and a place for hanging.
Okay.
I won't be.
It's probably cheaper than it's going to. So I have 2 seniors, 2 adults, and the rest kids. So I have 8 kids. It was $134. That was amazing. I mean, granted, by the time the adults and the seniors had cocktails to it, it was pretty significant, but we also have teen drivers, so. Yeah. And no, it's one, but yeah, so it was $134 for 2 seniors, 2 adults, and kids. Yeah.
So they didn't charge you for like, by the room, it was
No,
by
it's by
person.
seat.
Interesting.
It's by seat. So
As long as you fill it.
if you buy a screening room, or if you rent, if you can actually be one
So
of
do you
13
graduate
people.
from Virtual Academy?
So the reason why I went to
you
see it
graduate
was,
from
so Tim's birthday's Friday.
The
We're running
Virtual
Academy,
Academy,
and then we're gonna go, Brady
so
wants us to go to.
you go through, like, you're online and so
But
you're
you're still in
on
the one seat. So
You are,
by
okay.
the time dinner,
Not a
you're still
separate
enrolled,
entity.
no, it's not separate entity, you're still in the.
And the curriculum comes
What are
from,
you gonna do?
that's what it's called, like, if you want to do that, so you're called. And like, I'm gonna do this whole senior year as an so like, out of
Hey
thousands.
babe, I'm in a meeting. What's up?
No, it had to take place.
No,
Jeff?
no, they have a time
Hello?
screening room, but they had 9 and they didn't have it in.
Well, but it's like, and you're home, and you're just working in the afternoon, so you're not.
Yeah, because you missed your meeting report with
Like,
them.
why do you want to do it?
Sounds like I
Yeah, yeah, so.
It's a 13.
Watch yourself.
13 seat.
And that's where, like,
So you have a private screening room.
Right.
So my son's 18th birthday, we're like,
And then you go into the library and do them as.
well, and, you know, the growing area is, I told them they can go get the stuff.
I was gonna take over your bathroom.
Another 5 minutes is all yours.
Did you put your handbook up there?
Yes.
Said we had
You know, I
two
was looking all
seniors,
over for it, and guess who found it?
2 adults, and then 8 students.
And then
And that's a student, so it doesn't have to be a kid.
The bird place, because my bird died. And I usually put a bird down with me, a new cockatoo.
Yeah, and how cool, like, when the
And I
kids,
don't know
like,
what's gonna happen
they
if
go in,
Richard comes home and sees that.
you know,
We have
it
a new
seems
bird.
cool, right?
And then Hannah told me.
And I was like, I thought it would be
the one that I had.
a place for you to go, like, you have your
I
phone
looked
here,
up on the
so
camera,
then
and
the
there
little
it
ones,
is,
it
still in
doesn't matter.
still in the.
It's yours, it's your space.
The shoe box, and I'm like,
So that's my new, like,
so I'm using
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
say,
That's
but the
pretty
bird
neat.
doesn't, the bird isn't carried out.
Right?
The old bird is.
And it's better than a private. Oh, I had, that's where I was,
As cute as can be.
Warren has
Maggie
paws,
can't wait to see him.
and then we went from paws straight down there.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had to
Yeah.
cross it on the top.
Because the cat, I was sitting and he's just running.
Yeah.
They
they got their picture and they took off. Even students took off.
Good.
Great.
Val has worked with her the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Excited.
Oh, good.
So, I think I got that one done.
They do have a thought though on that weakness one.
I think I got that done.
Yeah, so
So,
person in finance position is.
well, the biggest thing is we gotta get, there's so much, they gotta know what's really at the beginning.
Is that?
'Cause-
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff in the room.
No, we'll always know that, like, that is part of the most challenging part of the last 2 weeks is in the committee and like, I don't know, but this
I
group.
know,
the group
I know,
that
but we're
But
like,
we're like at
that's caught up.
I know, I know.
He's,
For
so
sure.
that's been good, so, but we'll always, we need help.
We've touched on, and doing strengths and weaknesses, we touched on some of the opportunities and threats already, so I'm hoping that opportunities and threats we can move through just a little bit quicker so we can still get to the other items on our agenda.
Some of this stuff is gonna be really important.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure
was
why
like-
you would even try to make them less fat. If you're gonna eat chips, just,
My son's gonna kill me.
I don't need
You
any,
need
I
to
don't need
say
liquid
so.
anyway.
he will survive.
Oh,
This
I know
is
he
important
will.
for you.
I know he will.
All right.
That looks pretty good.
all right, so we'll reconvene here.
It's not so good.
We have made it through almost 2 hours of our hopeful 3-hour block. And I
Not a
think that, I think that we touched on some of the opportunities and threats as we were going through strengths and weaknesses.
I agree.
I certainly don't want to cut our conversation short, but I do want to be mindful of our time and the items that we still have left on the agenda. So, kicking off opportunities, as I said, I think we touched on some of this. We talked a little bit already about the consolidation of campuses and the opportunity that that will hopefully bring to leverage that consolidation for more cross-grade level collaboration and also unification throughout the district. We've also mentioned the early release Wednesdays, utilizing those for professional development. We talked about being a small district and being able to utilize the size of our district to more quickly adapt and make changes. So hopefully we can look at, like with the dual enrollment and Falcon Academy, adding some items like that. We talked about the virtual academy just now. We talked already about showing all the benefits and possible pay in the job description. We do have opportunities with new staff with like fresh ideas and new approaches. It would be great, I think, to bring in some more project-based learning if we have the opportunity to do that, and potentially with new technology and renovations, we can get like learning labs that would allow and facilitate more project-based hands-on learning, which would be excellent. I know I added down there, you know, an opportunity to collaborate more with Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation
Yes.
to really Fountain Hills as a community inclusive of the FMYN is really a culturally rich community, and we should be leveraging that more and educating our student body as a whole more about all of that.
I was really impressed with them when we met with them last week.
Amazing.
That, you know, they really seem to be interested in building that relationship. And, you know, in all the years I've been here, I knew they had a director of education. I didn't realize they have an actual education board, not a school board like we are, but an education board, and all the different opportunities they offer out there. So,
Yes.
yeah, I was very impressed with our meeting. I'm glad we did that, and I'd like to see that happen more often.
And we do need to, I did look into those $202, the
Yeah.
202. And I don't think,
202
we
money?
use impact aid, but the fact is we could, I mean, I was looking through the grants that they provided last year, and it was a very wide range, so I certainly feel like we would be able to put something together, because I do truly believe this, that a lot of the disconnect is transportation. Getting kids to and
Right.
from the reservation to our campuses, whether it's sports, whether it's an after-school program, all of those different things that if we, he said, he was like, write up a proposal
Right.
where we have a van that's their job. If they're like, the kids Uber, to get them back and forth to activities at school, I think would
Well,
really
they have that
strengthen
huge rec center. I would think they probably have some sort of transportation with it.
They don't.
They don't. Well, maybe that's what they invested.
Well, they're not, no one's that far away. Well, the rec center's at the north end of town.
Right, but some kids don't play sports or anything because there's no way to get them. Like, other kids can walk home here,
Yeah.
but they can't walk home to the res.
So like, there's kids we know, or, my example is football. We know that they wanna play football, but their older sibling works and they can't get out here. And the two, kids are embarrassed to ask other kids for rides, even though I'm sure, we're a close enough community, but, and then they, don't get involved in activities until school starts, cause they're here, because the bus brings them here, so.
Well, and they have more, they have resources that we haven't tapped into.
Yes.
Like they were talking about, do you have any teachers that are Native American? We don't, but we haven't had any apply. So, if you have resources out there, like send them our way, like give them the website with the HR, department and all the jobs that we have listed, so.
Yeah, were we able to make that connection?
Yep.
Awesome.
Haley reached out that afternoon.
Nice.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you, that's great.
And we've got dual enrollment down there. I
That's a
think
tough one.
as important as dual enrollment is, I think we're really missing boat because we're not taking advantage of concurrent enrollment.
Yes, I think we have a better shot at concurrent than we do at dual.
Well, and I wrote that, with the AP, the dual enrollment Falcon Academy. The Falcon Academy is something that Tom Lawrence and I brainstormed on years ago. Just like Desert Mountain has the IB program, now we've kind of like scratched the surface with the capstone, but we lose a significant amount of kids to BASIS or to the Desert Mountain IB program because not everyone understands capstone yet, even though they should, but they don't. And so Tom Lawrence and I, discussed like, was there a way, just like we have the self-contained special ed classes, was there a way to have like a self-contained Falcon Academy for those high achievers that we are losing to BASIS? Like, was there something we could do there? But with the virtual academy, because I wrote that as well, that's where I would like to see our virtual academy tap in, is like you were saying, Kane, like sometimes a kid can't take an AP class because their schedule's too full, but a lot of, Hunter did the virtual academy his whole senior year. It was an independent study his whole senior year. So there's no attendance or anything for that. He did it at his own pace, and I think Nadia's kids did it as well.
Yes.
That it's another opportunity for our kids to take higher education courses. I don't think we need to just open it up as a free-for-all, because that's a lot of work for Melinda. But if we could do something with the higher education courses, more AP, there's only going to be a handful of kids that are able to do that, but it's an opportunity that we can offer instead of losing them over the hill.
Well, we have to grow AP. I was looking at the numbers, and even when I was as principal, that was on our to-do list, was to grow AP, and I think a lot of kids are scared away from it, and they don't know as much about it, so we could do better there. Based on, I haven't really looked too much at what we're offering this year yet. I haven't had a chance to really get in and look at their schedule, but based on what we've had in the past, I can't think of any really AP courses that we don't offer that our neighbors offer. Like coming from a large school, all the AP classes we offered were exactly the same as here. So I don't think there may be a little bit in the language, or like we may have had.
Well, and that's foreign language would be another opportunity.
And we did have AP here for Spanish with Kalani, but we didn't have like AP French or Japanese and things like, so some of the bigger districts will have a little bit more in the language part, but everything else we were pretty aligned with, you know, English was the same, math, I think we had for sure, I don't think a lot of the schools have AP stats, we had AP stats, that was
Right.
another one. Science, we were right on track with. So I think we were, in social studies too, we offered, Randy could teach Gov and Econ AP.
Yeah.
And Matt did, you know, AP World and US. So AP was always good, and I think it just making sure we're sticking with that. We do have a rotation, which makes it possible for a small district to do that. But if we're doing 4-year plans with our counselors, that's not a problem. Like, I'm gonna take, you know, environmental science as a sophomore, I'm gonna take biology as a junior. You can work that out with your counselor. The hard one is dual enrollment because of the requirement of having a master's degree in your
Right.
subject area. So I agree, Dana, that the concurrent enrollment might be the better path, and I just need to set up time. I do have a meeting scheduled with the president of SCC. She reached out to us, right, about setting up a meeting. So
Good.
we're gonna do that. Once school, kids are back in class, we'll meet there. And we had a great relationship with, you know, Paul Langworthy over the years when he was in that role. So we gotta get back to that, our community colleges, for sure.
Well, what's happening, and especially in the Mesa district, is that they're giving students the opportunity to spend half of their day on Mesa's campus. We're equidistant between Scottsdale and Mesa time-wise, so if we bust those students to Scottsdale, for example, and they took the concurrent classes that we don't offer here in any form, whether it's foreign language, whether it's, they're getting both high school credit, and more importantly, they're getting college credit.
I love it.
And we have to pay tuition, but, normally, that's how it's done, and books. But, we don't have to have a teacher here during that time for
That's
that
what
either.
evens
So,
out, if not better.
we've got the colleges have charter schools on all but one campus that, their model is concurrent enrollment. They take some classes on their campus, adjacent to our campuses, and kids walk over and take classes right along with everybody else. It's not a cohort in some cases, they sit in with, you know, everybody else that's there. But incredibly successful, up to 60 credits over the course of a high school career, which gets them an associate degree,
Right.
usually a week before they get their diploma here. And so, it's being done more and more all the time. I think it would behoove us to be ahead of the game in something like that, because
Agreed.
we can't
Yeah.
compete with all the foreign languages, or even some of the science, because we don't have the facilities for it, where
Right.
Scottsdale and Mesa do. And, you know, Mesa's a 40-minute drive, Scottsdale is about 35, depending on traffic. And so I just think that's an opportunity we've been missing out on.
I agree with you. There's a lot of kids that come into GCU, they start there as freshmen and they're already juniors,
Yeah.
actually. So one of Hunter's roommates is already a junior when Hunter was a freshman, and he just got college credit as he was going to high school and stuff. And just
And debt-free.
when we were talking about Fort McDowell and their transportation, Tara texted me and said that Fort McDowell has a white bus similar to the one our cheerleaders use at school, that their basketball team. Well, I'll let you participate.
Yeah, so I went to the Navi tournament, which was really, really cool. That's the name of the basketball invitational. So we went to cheer on like Isaiah and X and, you know, our Fountain Hills athletes. And they, so we kind of just followed them around. And they have their own Fort McDowell bus that hauled the basketball team all around. Their coach drove it. So they do have opportunities. I think they just have to be approached the right way.
Yeah, that we have to just work that out with them. So
And
thank
we-
you for that
And
information.
we did, with Reteach, our bus does take kids to 2 locations.
Yes.
Is what we established back in those days, and you know, some days we had 0 at the bus that wanted to use it, but if we're gonna make it a requirement, we had to transport them, so we'll continue to do that, but a kid could use that for tutoring or for another, I mean, we don't have one at, you know, it leaves at 3:30, 3:45, which isn't always ideal for sports, but it's
Right, and
something.
that's what, this was more for
Yes,
sports,
correct,
that we
correct.
wanna see them get active in clubs and sports.
Yeah, so I think it's more, we would need to be the driver of their vehicle.
Yeah.
We could find, I think, a way to work it out between both, you know.
Is the high
us and
school still doing power hour?
No, but that was another conversation that Evelyn and I had up front. Because if we're gonna do the read
Yeah.
teach, you know, we really gotta have that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think as a coach, having that time for paperwork, housekeeping things, notebooks, you know, like, you know, inspiring athletes, reviewing game film. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do where if a student isn't there, they could still get caught up, or, you know, like, you can make that work. I really think that's something we gotta bring back to, so.
Yeah, I'd like to see that implemented,
Of course.
because especially kids that have to go to reteach or get tutoring and stuff, I don't like when practice starts immediately after school,
Right.
because it puts the kids in a predicament, because they get penalized if they don't go to practice, but they're penalized if their grades aren't good. We have to allow that opportunity for some catch-up time and not penalize them for not being at practice on time. So I really like that hour right after school. I
And
get
that-
it with games, but.
Yeah, but now you've got a Falcon's Nest to hang out in, like, they didn't
That's
have
right.
that in the past. So, I
And
mean, you-
boosters are providing tutoring.
That's what I'm saying, so they're definitely, and right now for like football, they really can't at 2:30 because of the heat, so they have to go later anyway. Once it cools down, it'll be a little harder. Volleyball, you know, again, as a coach, you know, you always feel rushed starting practice right after school. This gives them a chance to go to IEPs. We just talked about that, go to 504s, be involved in staff meetings and things of that nature without having to always be, you know, with their
Immediately,
team.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it gives them a break too, a little bit between one activity and the next. So, yes, it's something that needs to come back, and we've already had that conversation. So we just have to solidify it and bring it back.
Well, and I think we need to instill it in those coaches that don't work for the school.
Yep.
That aren't teachers.
Yep.
Because all the things you just talked about are teachers and catching up and things like that. But we have a lot of coaches now who aren't teachers.
Everybody does.
So I think we need to instill that in them, that our school gets out at 2:20, but our kids are not available till 3:30.
Yeah, because their academics are a priority.
That's
And
right.
if you do it right, you won't have eligibility issues.
Right.
Exactly.
I've always said that, like, if you're involved in your team and you're checking grades and if you don't wanna do that as a head coach, use an assistant coach. You have all these assistant coaches on your staff. Somebody should be doing that, so, you know, I always had that, and, you know, every coach has a different role in the paperwork and housekeeping part of the coaching job, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say too, I know that we're really good as a district, if a kid does not have the money to pay for an extracurricular, should never hold them back. But I will say, food could be an issue. So if kids are staying right after school, right into a sport, not all of them have, the ability to bring
To get a
snacks
snack.
and food and have healthy options for them. And I think that's something that we sometimes forget, is kids will leave because they wanna grab something to eat, or they don't, they're starving, so they don't stay for practice, and we need to make sure that, hunger is not a reason for kids
The
not to be
churches are really
practiced.
good about that. The churches actually have reached out before and said, you know, how can we help? And they want to donate, you know, fruit, granola bars, things like that, because, you know, there's the Friday weekend sack that goes home with kids who don't have food for the weekend. That I don't think people realize how many kids go home with that little box. But you know, that's another great way to reach out to the community, is by providing fresh snacks for our teams, you know, so, or for our kids that are staying after.
It's an excellent idea to do something at a very
Exactly.
reasonable price, like, you know, so that's a possibility.
Going back to
We might get
concurrent,
more, reteach
we-
kids.
we send a bus to use it. And another 5 minutes, you're at the Mesa campus.
Mhm.
So they could get 3 college courses in that bus trip. And of course, 3 high school courses at the same time, similar to those that go to EVIT. But now we're talking a different student.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not gonna beat it to death, but the rest of the world is taking, this year especially coming up, the growth in our enrollment at Mesa Community College in Scottsdale is primarily due to concurrent enrollment.
Okay. It's a great opportunity. I really do.
Right. Anything else under opportunities?
No, I think we can move on to the threats, and again, I think we've talked a lot about, it's kind of like. Okay.
Isn't Miss Trudy still at Mesa?
She didn't go to Mesa.
She's Skyline,
She has Skyline.
Oh, okay.
Who's this?
Truby.
Trudy.
I thought
Tom.
she went to Mesa.
Tom recruited her.
And then Tom left. He's at a Catholic school now.
Brennan's gone.
He's not at Skyline anymore.
Yeah, she's got
I took Tom's place at EVIT when he came here.
Oh.
And I never forgave him for it.
Right?
And threats aren't anything that we can really do much about, but things to keep in mind, which I think we all, declining enrollment would be something we can do something about, but, we have to follow policies, we have to follow certain rules, so,
I have been reaching out to families who have left the district in the last few weeks. Some in person have come to the office and some over the phone. We'll continue to do that. Because I firmly believe that, we have to take feedback and no matter how much that stings, we gotta get better. And so
If we don't know what we're doing wrong, we'll never be able to improve.
So I've done that, been doing that, we'll continue to do that. And, just so, I can find, themes, things that we need to address. And then also, like I said, we just really need to have some brainstorming sessions about, and I think that's where the strategic plan comes in, is we're not going to, we can't always compete with, a larger district with trying to do the same exact things as them.
Yes.
I've had these conversations with other superintendents and my mentor as well, talking to them about it, and it's like, I think one thing we really gotta do is look at what some other small districts are doing that are successful. I think that, I love taking visits to other schools and districts and seeing what they have going on. I think that always helps, but, we have to, hopefully the strategic plan will come up with some ideas of what we can do. Because 6 years ago, it was still an issue, but we weren't consolidating schools or anything. We were worried about how many kids we were losing out of 130 eighth graders to other schools. And we got that down to a couple kids, but now, Kale's class is 60 in eighth grade. So like that's a whole different topic, it's a different problem. So I'm hoping that in those conversations and all the great minds of people who are getting involved in this, that we can come up with something that's really unique and something that sells people on us. But we also have to be successful with our academics and what we're doing. So I think that's one that weighs on me a lot, is the enrollment.
I think we have to have our students know that they did something successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, celebrating their success,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because then on the weakness there, that kind of bothered me a little bit.
We're unique because we're adjacent to some pretty awesome schools, let's face it, right?
They are good.
And they're good competition.
Yeah.
They should make us become better at what we do. If you
Yeah.
look at our closer rivals, where I spend a lot more time in the summer than I do down here, Payson and Joe, Snowflake, I go to church at Blue Ridge High School. They're in the same boat, but there's no competition other than the same schools, and they are so much alike that
Right.
it doesn't make any difference. We've got a whole different situation with a 3,000 student school, Basis, Great Hearts, and Notre Dame. I mean, really, really good competition where we can learn from ourselves, but we can also learn from our competition as well, what they're doing to attract students, not just from here, because let's face it, Scottsdale loses lots of students.
Yes.
Right. We just, the school of choice, that's been thrown around forever. Like, how do we become the school of choice? And, we're never going to attract everyone, because small schools just aren't for everyone, We're not gonna be, a 6A, football team. It's not gonna happen. But, there's a lot of things that we can do because we're unique with our small class sizes and our teachers that are vested in the community and things like that, that we have to start being more creative, start thinking out of the box, start working with our community, celebrating those successes. And I think if we can continue to propel forward and, have some different ideas, kind of like EVIT, I mean, they have their own little niche of all of their, career ready. We can have our own niche too, we just haven't found it, and it seems like just as we kind of get going,
Momentum,
we're slammed back. So, but
Right.
Kane's gonna stay here a long time, so.
Yes.
So he's gonna continue to motivate that.
Well, years ago, when Kane was principal, he and I talked about it, what can we do to make this a magnet school?
Right.
And technology obviously is an area that is, it's relatively inexpensive as opposed to automotive and some of those other programs that are very expensive in the healthcare side of things.
Jill, I like the way you put that we should celebrate the successes.
Oh, well, absolutely, I mean,
I like the way you said that.
we used to say, we celebrate.
Yes.
So, but, somebody, you or you, one of you, or maybe it was Tara, somebody I was just talking to basically said, like, micro schools are popping up everywhere. Maybe it was you.
Was it you?
No, it was Tara.
No, it's not me.
That micro schools are popping up everywhere. We're almost like a micro school compared to Scottsdale. We just have a lot more benefits.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to start looking at is, how do we put those benefits out there and how do we celebrate our, small class sizes and make them unique and engaging and bring those aspects to our district.
Well, and that's, the messaging, a school is for the whole child.
Right.
It is not about getting on a computer, the micro schools have a niche, but it's, you sometimes work 2 hours a week, sometimes it's 12 hours a week. We have a system where we provide meals for kids, where we have counselors for kids, where our kids get academics, they have recess, they have extracurriculars. So we really, back sort of this public ed thing, we can't turn anyone away.
No.
So we have to try to be all things for all people, which is clearly impossible, and it's not a good fit for everyone. But, there are people who were at, K-8 schools, private schools that came back here because they wanted to go to football games on Friday nights. So, or wanted to be part of the band or, things like that. So I think education, academics obviously is critical.
Yes.
But it's the whole child.
It's
It's
the whole
them
child,
learning how to
right.
make friends and collaborate and critically think. That's what creates someone successful in the workplace. So I think we can wrap all those things up and talk about what we have to offer.
Well, and I think
That
that's
is
where we
as
get
public
some of the
school.
kids from Scottsdale that don't thrive in that environment because they're not getting everything they need over there. It's too big, they want that smaller environment. And here, like we've said forever, you wanna play, football, basketball, baseball, you can.
You're not gonna get cut from the football team here. Like, you're not. And, and whether you're ever on the field, it doesn't matter, because you built a community. Like, you could go all 4 years with a community of people, or the band, or,
Yeah.
So it's just, it's making sure that story is told.
Hear that, George? Tell the story.
Yeah, so.
Anything else on threats?
No, I think we've really,
It is what it is.
yeah.
Yes.
And I think, it's just one of those things like, it's an awareness thing and
Yes.
and it kind of still filters into our other stuff. It's
Exactly.
just, you know, we've got to make those other things great so that these things are irrelevant.
Yeah, they usually lessen.
And when you fill out college applications, it doesn't just ask for your transcript. It asks how many hours you were in extracurricular. It asks how many hours you volunteered. I wish we could show that to our freshmen and be like, this is what you're gonna fill out to get into a college.
Yeah, we don't make you do 24 hours just because we're bored.
Yeah.
Like, your college is gonna want to know it.
Yes. Okay, moving on to board goals. I would like to hear from Kane, because I know the board has seen these goals many, many times, and that we usually spend a little time each year kind of wordsmithing them and trying to just essentially say the same thing, but revamp them to be a little more current in their language.
Well, Dana wants them to have an end game.
Yeah.
They have to be
And,
measurable.
no,
Yeah,
measurable,
That's
yes.
an end game.
And that's the
measure
thing,
it.
I'd like to hear Kane's perspective, because I think that we are due for more than just a wordsmithing kind of revamp, right? That we need to take a new approach.
Well, I would say maybe what we do is take, Krista puts these together and we get them back to you and we highlight what are the most important things that you feel passionate about. And we take those and we build the goals from that.
Yeah.
I mean, some, like you said, a positive on one removes a threat from the other. So it really comes down to when I'm doing any kind of goal setting with my team or myself is, what is the most essential, most important thing that we have to take care of and get that under control, and then you move down the line and get to where you're feeling like these big picture things are taken care of now. So I would say if we took, you took some time to reflect on those and look at which are the biggest concerns for you, and then we look at are any of these existing ones still there? Do they need to just be changed, or do we need a whole new goal that hits something there? That would be my suggestion.
I agree. Again, you gotta measure them, otherwise, how do you know if you're meeting them? I mean,
Right.
Okay, we want to see your measurements.
Yeah, you have your
I know,
goal,
you want me
and
to-
then under each
Yeah.
goal is
Tell
your
us how
objective.
We're gonna measure it.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so give us
think
an example.
these are good ideas,
Yeah.
but not goals.
No, these are goals, you want objectives, objectives go under the goals. So if you say
Well, okay.
champion a unified learning environment that engages students or families in our community, objective one could be increase,
Parent survey of
Yeah.
engagement, like how they feel
that
about
the
those.
climate, that the positive reports of climate increase 10% each year that this is given.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But,
But these still need to fit on our, like,
Sure.
big,
Yeah.
broad website.
Actually, number 5 fits very nice.
they're all important, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I
So
mean,
you have unified number one, which came up a lot today.
Right. But how? That's the big thing, is that we can say we want to, create a unified learning environment, but how?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's always been the thing. The board is the what, you are the how.
Yeah,
You know,
so I
we
would
learn
align my
that,
goal to
but-
that and bring you data that supports
Yeah.
that has been done, and we'd have to, we'll sit down as a team and figure out, how do we quantify that, and then how do we show you that there's growth from beginning of the year to the end of the year, so.
But we want to take it to the next step, and so under our goals, like Wendy said, we want to have objectives, and we
Yes.
want your goals and objectives to then
Yep.
Yeah.
feed off of that,
And so here's an example, champion a unified learning environment. So we could say 100% of families in the district have an opportunity to learn about the next school, right? So that's an easy one, and you can say 100% because you can show these
It
are
went
the
out
3
to-
things
yeah,
that
right.
that we put into place without shaming someone at a school board meeting saying you have to have a
Right.
transition night. But, you know, that's super easy, check that off the list, these are the things that we provided. But then beyond that, then you start to go with more family perceptions, that 80% of families report that they understood of the break points, whatever they're gonna be when you do this, understood the transition from this school to that school. And then, you know, so you have it, you know, you don't wanna, obviously, you know SMART goals, cause you in a doctorate program, making sure they're achievable with a time frame. So like, you know, are these measured yearly, are they measured, you know, quarterly?
So
What
I
are
think
those
that's,
pieces?
I think that's a great August work study,
Yeah.
is, you know, our goals are probably gonna remain our goals, they're very vague.
Probably.
But an objective session of coming up with objectives
And measurements.
and measurements that then Dr. J and his staff can feed off of that on how, you know, we can say, you know, like Wendy said, 100% of families. And then he can decide how he's going to do that.
Yeah, so when you say number 2, operators also reach their maximum potential, the objective could be a academic achievement goal that's in there that we take. You know, at the lower levels, that'd be a little easier because of the testing. The high school will be a little, well, I guess with ACT it'll be year 2, so there should be a, you know, previous data to now. So that would be something we could do.
You know,
There's growth, 10% growth.
Yeah, we want to see
and
growth.
CTE can be in there somewhere, as it should.
CTE.
And
Education.
individualized opportunities
Vocational ed.
is making 100% of IEPs and 504s
Yeah.
are not in compliance, but have their meeting, right? So you
Right.
start at like those activities, so.
Right.
All their meetings are done in the appropriate time frame. 90% of parents are satisfied with the way the meeting went. You know, so you can, I mean, this could be like a 20-page document when all is said and done, but
That's okay.
it provides, so you can come to us and be like, hey, you know what, out of our, 83 IEPs, we know that 82 were completed on time.
Right.
And we say, okay, that's close to 100% good.
Well, and I think that by, if we go through the goals, like if we do it at the work study session, I think, this is Dr. J's first year, so maybe we set 3 objectives per goal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, because like we could go on forever.
And keep
And,
finding
and then,
additional.
he's like, okay, it's 1 year, like.
And make
back it
sure,
up.
yeah, and make sure that we're operationalizing things.
Yes.
Right.
Because everybody defines success differently.
Absolutely.
And so what is measurable, and being realistic about what you set. Like, there's not gonna be 0 disciplinary
Right,
issues
exactly.
after, but.
100% attendance,
Yeah,
those are,
but, you could have,
You improve
Right.
by 10%.
Yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like with our
exactly.
surveys, I mean, I'm sure there's something in here about communication or something that,
Yes.
we do the survey once a quarter and that we, each quarter that it grows by 10% response because
Yep.
we're engaging more, something.
Yeah.
But I think we should, limit our objectives in this first year to maybe 3 objectives.
Well,
underneath.
and he has to be able to come back to us and say the how.
Right, exactly.
Well, and then we can tie those goals into the strategic plan as
Right.
well,
Right.
which is be another thing.
Yeah.
So that might be, maybe that could be one objective, is that we have a strategic plan in place by the end of the year, which falls under one of these goals that has been completed. So, to promote and advance the district's success and excellence, the strategic plan could do that. And that might be the objective, is that completion of that presented to you by the end of the year satisfies that goal. Because within that document, there's a lot of other goals and a lot of other things.
And then a good strategic plan will meet all these goals, actually.
It would,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
And number 4, for example, there's some unique things happening here, not just the override in the bond, but the transition of our L1 elementary schools.
Yeah.
That not just that we make the change, but that it does in such a way that it disrupts our students in the least.
Right.
Yeah.
That the goal is that it's, that we're prepared for the 23-24 school year.
yeah,
Right.
and go ahead. Remembering also that, trying to say this pragmatically, some things that people think our failures are really constraints that we have, right?
Yes.
So it's almost sort of like the budget 101 thing that we talked about.
Right.
Like, you're mad that we spent this money on this. Well, it was earmarked for that. We had no choice.
Yeah, right.
These are things that need to be done with those dollars, you know? So it's both, we understand as a group what the objective is and how we're gonna get there, but then also communicating that to the public so they have an understanding that.
Because people do not understand M&O versus capital versus bond. And I know that for a fact because when this learning center was built, people were really upset. They're like, you pay your teachers nothing and you just built this nice building. Different money.
I know, I had someone tell me that they voted no on the override.
The DAA.
Because it had a school bus in there, and they've driven past our transportation building, and it looks like we have school buses.
Okay.
And they, just smart person, but, it's like, just like a car doesn't
that'll be
last
our
for
job
10
is
years.
to
Yeah.
get
So
that.
we
That's
have to
his
do
job.
a better job
And
of,
Patrick is,
communicating
right.
those, yeah.
Very grateful to have him help with that, and again, knows the community and knows a lot about that, so we will get that word out for sure.
Cool.
Okay?
All right, so we're gonna,
Really fast on you,
Yeah.
do you guys foresee like just a, work study session on H27 of discussing and, creating your goals, objectives, and measurements? Are you wanting to see some time on the 8-10 info and discussion?
I would
On
just
just
say it's
goals,
I
work
would just,
study.
yeah, I would
Everything
just
all
say
on
it's
each
all
night. Okay.
work study.
Okay.
yeah,
Just because first of all, it's too hard to discuss goals up there.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna be a long conversation.
Got it.
yeah. So I think we'll do the board goals with objectives, and then that will feed into individual board member goals as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about tonight, Kane, on the strategic plan, which is the next item, other than we know we need to do it?
Just so we're gonna be getting started, once the kids are back in school, that'll be a priority.
Stakeholder surveys.
So I don't see any data for that. My understanding is the company we used, was it
Panorama.
Panorama, that was used once, so we wanna up that, like feedback's really important to me, so whether, we're gonna look at what our deal is with them.
Yeah.
If we have the opportunity still, we'll do it. If not, then, we can do those ourselves. I really don't feel in a district of our size that that's not something I could do on my own and get help from, feedback from people about what needs to be in there. But really, we just really need to know is,
Yes.
are we being nice to people? Are we working hard? Are we meeting your needs? And what are we not doing that we need to know about so we can fix it? And I don't think it needs to be overly complicated. And I think it should be short and sweet because parents have a lot to do, and a short survey just to let us know would be good, and then build upon it each year, so, yeah.
And the last one we did, Wendy researched the survey companies and stuff, and Panorama was great, it's great to move forward with them, but we also started it at a time when COVID was happening. People weren't allowed in the schools, and a lot of the questions,
We're like engagement based, like,
right, like
do you have the opportunity to
be in
do
your
this,
child's
this, and this?
classroom?
And it
And
was
it's
like,
like,
no, of course
yeah, no, I
don't.
can't be there. And, like, how much communication do you have with the teacher? Well, at that point, it's kind of limited because, they're online. And so it just wasn't a good time, and the questions didn't flow. And not only that, but a lot of, the issues that I heard were, like, the questions were geared more towards, like, this grade than this grade, and like they just didn't, like, if you were a high school parent, it didn't necessarily apply to all the high school and stuff. So it is definitely something we should look at
So we
again.
can branch into, questions that branch out to what kind of parent, what schools you're at, and,
Yeah, because and then the biggest problem was that it was tied to parents' email addresses. No.
Right.
We can do an anonymous link that you can set it up so that you can only have so many IP addresses that answer it, so people
Right.
can't
Spam it.
Yeah.
That they don't just keep taking it over and over again.
Yeah, because then, there's parents that, one parent filled it out, but the other parent wanted to fill it out, or, or they had multiple kids, and, I think we need to simplify that also.
Right.
And there's
And
ways
I
that
would
we
like
can do
real, like, I want really like good questions, you know, like, I wanna know why people aren't happy or what they love, and the questions were just really vague. Like, I tried to answer it for Hunter, but it didn't really work for me,
I do
especially
like
as an independent study, so.
that we also issued the survey to the teachers, and that the teachers had an opportunity, because I think that that's important for them to be able to provide that anonymous feedback
Right.
as well.
Which, you know, not to stray, but if you've watched any of the board meetings, we've had FHEA come multiple times and talk. I would like to see that continue, because it really gave the teachers an opportunity to voice, and so much over the past years, I've heard, you know, we don't have anyone to talk to, we can't say anything to the board. You should always be able to talk to the board. If you have a problem, you have to go through policies. But the board should always be able to hear what's going on and what the majority thinks. You can't come to us with individual complaints. But as a whole, you know, I would love to hear from McDowell, and then I'd love to hear from the middle school as a you know, send a representative and tell us what's good, tell us what's not working, because that's what we heard, like when McDowell came and they're like, you know, Seesaw worked better than Beyond Textbooks, but it's like, is it not working for you because of, you know, professional development? We need to hear those things too, because we're making decisions, but we're not hearing from the people that have to use them. So I want to see that continue.
Sure.
But, yeah, of course, valuing their time, not
Right,
having,
yeah.
even if it's during the school day where we have to go to them, I think we can make that work, because I don't want people to feel obligated to come to every single one of these meetings.
Well, and like Dana said, like for Kane's, you know, that he's having like the back to school breakfast, you know, can we attend?
Yeah.
You know, I just had a teacher say, why doesn't the school board ever come to like our staff meetings? I don't know. Like, I mean,
We haven't
I'm
been
happy to
invited.
attend a staff meeting, you know, one, I don't know when they are.
Yeah.
If you tell me when they are, I'm happy to attend a staff meeting to just sit and listen, but I think that we need to be a little more visible,
Yeah,
so.
agreed.
Yeah, that would help.
I will get those meetings for you and to you.
And,
For
but we
each
do
site.
need to be careful, because I remember once attending something and I had a teacher like, why is she here? Why? Like I was.
Right, they need to
you know,
understand
A
we're-
mole
we're
or
just-
something like
yeah.
that.
Well, because I think sometimes they're afraid to talk because they're afraid of us, and it's like, you shouldn't be afraid of us. We're here to you know, to serve you. We're here to, you know, make this a better working place.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid of us.
We're here to make it better for our students.
Well,
But
and our
but there is-
teachers.
We do
Right,
have to be
exactly.
careful. I don't want to get
think
into
the
a
air shut
situation where we're also
I
not
didn't
elected
turn
to
it back on
micromanage.
for
Yeah,
you.
right.
And I
But
don't
you
want
need it on?
I don't want that to be something that new people on the school board think is, like, we also don't have the right to walk into classrooms and
No,
do certain
no,
things. Like,
no,
I
no,
think
no.
that being visible, I think we have to really clearly define that.
Yes.
Is being there in support, as an observer, but it's not
an
to
engagement.
micromanage what
Or
happens in the
direct,
classroom.
or- yeah.
And,
And
yes.
a great way to do that would also be just, you know, take a tour with the principal, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to, you can walk some classrooms, get to see some activities, and then hear from them exactly what they need and what,
Mhm.
I think that's a good way
Yeah,
to do it.
I would love for us to have
Yes,
some.
and
Ditto.
as a like single, that it's not a tour, like it's not a group effort, because
Yeah.
then that classifies as a quorum
No,
and you
just
can't.
individual, like, spend some time with each principal. and-
Right.
And hear what, you know, hear what they got going on, because a lot of times they're excited to share. I know I always was excited to share, like, what we have, and let's go check out this room, because I know they're doing really good stuff in there.
Well,
Okay.
and I love talking to the kids, and that's, you know, the last time I popped in on McDowell Mountain, I, you know, walked into Mrs. Helm's room and the kids wanted to quiz me. So, and I love that. I love to have like a little chit chat, you know, and, yeah, I want the teachers to know we're here to support them, and we're not here to, you know, to be a mole or to peek at what they're doing. We truly want to know what's going on in our schools, so we make better decisions.
Absolutely.
It needs to be on a more of a regular basis.
Yes.
When I was principal, I tried to get into every one of my classrooms every day.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want, when I had to go in there for a formal evaluation, to make it any different.
Yes.
And sometimes I'd walk in and say, you know, you need to come here, and congratulate them for doing something. And not in front of everybody, because there was a class going on, But
Yeah, you don't want to disrupt, you also don't want to disrupt learning.
That's
What's
right.
happening in the
Exactly.
classroom.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
School safety.
I just wanted to share where, that's a priority for me. And so I'll probably be, coming to you with additional information and maybe requests on certain things. So we've already posted, like I said, the security positions. I think that's important to have constant monitoring of campuses. I met with our security camera people this morning. Some of the things that we talked about prior to the pandemic with the last purchase, it looks like some things didn't go in that I'd like to see. So I'm asking them for a quote right now. But what we're really looking for is to help with the line of sight of these fence lines that we have. We have so much fencing at especially at the high school, that it's an outdoor campus, and what these cameras now can do is they can alert you to a breach of that fence line. Whether that's a kid going to DJs that they're not supposed to, or it's the opposite, somebody intruding onto the campus. So they came today, and that would be a capital purchase, but I think it's one, when we get that, we'll take a look at. It might be a 2-year plan, it may be a 3-year plan, I don't know yet, but that's a priority for me to do that. We've also reached out to do an updated vulnerability assessment with Paul Stebbins. I'm sure his phone is like really busy right now, but because he was hard to get a hold of, in the past. I know he's one of few that does that. He's excellent, and so we're gonna hopefully get Actic back out to do some things. But that is a priority, and I think that's one of the reasons why I work with Steve Full on the election stuff, is to add that in there, because it now opens up the door for us to be, to be one of the hopefully a model district of that. You can never predict the unpredictable of what can happen in school violence, but you can eliminate hopefully a lot of potential
Avenues.
threats and opportunities by putting things in place. So that is something we are looking at. If we could get the cameras updated this year, get the security positions filled at all the positions, continuously train our staff, and continue, McDowell and the middle school are self-contained classrooms for the most part, one building, with the exception of, PE lunch and maybe art at the middle school. But outside of that, they're pretty much in one building, so it's a little easier to lock down. The high school, it really just would be continuous training on how to handle situations and hit that a little bit harder. So those are some priorities. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, but I think high school, for example, has north of 100 doors outside, and keys to all of them. And there used to be the $5,000 key. Now it's $10,000 key if you've got a master key. If you lose it, you got to replace all the locks on the district. I think with the bond money potentially there, that we should look at phasing in
Key cards.
key cards.
Actually, John talked about that. John Flynn talked about that with the facilities group.
Yeah, it's a safety protocol in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
so we did put that category in a lot of areas, which opens up a lot of opportunity for us to hit on that, and then that's pretty much it on school safety. I just wanted to let you know that we're trying to do some additional things this year to increase that. The number one thing still is always going to be, see something, say something, and continuously try to train our staff and students about the importance of speaking up, because that prevents a lot of issues.
Learn from other people's mistakes, and Waldy's a good example. You take things for granted, bad things can happen. And we don't have the same kind of situation where we prop open classroom doors, because not that many classrooms have outside doors. But it can happen.
Just securing the campus perimeters, and then protocols on entering campus, single, or can't really do a single entry point with our sites because of the bus lanes and things like that. But getting it down to 2 is usually feasible, and then having security at those positions or administrators at those positions to check IDs on the way in, make sure everyone's who they say they are, where they're supposed to be. This Verkada camera system has a lot of additional features to it, which I really like, where our officer would have access to live video, coming to respond to anything. There's just a lot of cool features that we just really, we need to do that. So I'll bring back proposals and ideas for you, but that is gonna be a priority for me this year.
Do we still have the procedures and documentation on where students are going to go if the campus is?
Yeah, that's in their emergency response plan.
It's
So
still-
that was all shared with principals earlier in the summer, and I told them that had to be all completed before the first day of school and all that. And we may bring in, a consultant to just look that over, just to have another set of eyes on it. I have reached out to the one I've used in the past. He is retired, but he's always come out and checked my plans for me. And we're so small that I think we could get them to come out and just take an overview of it. The ERPs have shrunk quite a bit in what you're expected to do, but I've also already set up a Google form for our staff or principals on any drill or actual incident. Now there's an after action report that they fill out online that comes to me.
Nice.
We also have, we're gonna be purchasing a subscription to Remind for the whole district. I used it in a real situation last year, and it was the only thing that I could use to communicate because the intercom system went down during the lockdown, and it really saved the day. And I think you have to have again, you'll hear me say this a lot, but the plan A, B, and C, and when the intercom doesn't work and emails down and maybe the Remind works. Plus, I think it's important for our coaches and our extracurriculars to only communicate through students with an approved app. So we got a quote, it's for our district, is very, very minimal. What I love about it is you don't have to have the app to receive a message. So if a parent has a flip phone,
Nice.
which I respect, if you have a flip phone, you would still get a text message from Remind saying the school's in lockdown. So we can then send it to parents only, staff only, students only, everybody, and I really like that. So it's coming pretty soon, and we'll get that launched and out. So that'll be another safety protocol that we've added.
As part of the teacher training, and I certainly want us to be, proactive and not have to think about having an incident, but with the whole A, B, and C, like you have all your plans, right? Are we including in teacher training a level of like if you need to put on a tourniquet, if you need to help a student?
We've done
Are
it in
they
the past. We did the bleed. I forget the name of the company. They came out and we all had to do tourniquets and stuff. I remember doing that in the library. I think it's called Stop the Bleed or something like that. Is an organization. We did.
And Guardian, who's
Guardian,
they're part of
yeah.
the coalition, and they had said to me at one of the meetings that they would be happy that more people die from bleeding out than anything else.
Yes.
They would be happy to do a training with their
So-
district, their local.
Yeah, so we have, we get our, big picture, cameras, security, and then as we go, we just keep refining and refining and refining until we get everything down. But the nice thing is, as superintendent, I would get, if any school does a drill or a lockdown, I would automatically know, the other principals would know, and there's no hope the battery works on the radio, all those types of things. It's just another fail-safe way to do things, and so I think it'll be much easier than some of the other programs we tried in the past. We tried some in the past and they're really complicated, but this one is really simple, and I had a lot of success in the past. So that would be it on school safety.
It might be a good, maybe it's been done, but the churches are alternate locations.
The rec center is the primary for most of the school, like at least for the high school in McDowell.
Rec center being,
I'm sorry, the community center, my fault.
oh.
I'm sorry. The community center.
Originally the high school was the two churches.
It
on
was,
campus,
it was the one above the
that
football
they could walk
field.
to.
And I worked with Trent Renner back in those days they were, I think, our secondary. But when ACTA came out back then, there was a reason for why they chose that site. I think it could be the distance. It's changed a lot. Like every time you have an incident, it changes a little bit more. And that's why I want them to come out and refresh. But yes, pretty certain that it is, the main one is the community center.
For both, well, for
And
all
probably
three.
for all three schools because of the
Probably so the
location.
roads are open. Because
And,
those would be shared roads
Right.
to go,
Yeah.
so that's.
and also churches, different leadership and management come in, they may not want to
That's
take
what
on
I'm
that
saying.
responsibility. The community center is pretty stable
Consistent,
and
yeah.
consistent, so, and they have the space for the whole
No, it's
district.
good.
And we have an IGA with them,
We
so.
do, so it works. So we'll continue to refine that. We'll have a district emergency response team and site emergency response teams that will meet throughout the year. And just, that's something that we just gotta continue to always do and plan for.
In terms of communication, that is one thing we cannot be fully transparent about.
Like,
Yeah,
we
so
can't
it-
share
it-
a
one
The
of
lot.
the
sheriff's
things-
department will have a copy of this plan, but this does not, it's
No,
not
it's
open to the
protected
public.
under, you can't, like emergency response plans are for, school eyes only. But we do have to be, one thing I have learned in these incidences is the communication to the community timely and to, depending on obviously the situation, to calm fears and concerns is really important. And so I've learned a lot of that in the last couple of years of how quickly you get that message out. It doesn't have to be everything, but it just, parents want reassurance that you don't have to come down here. It's okay, we'll give you more information in time, but your kids are safe and things are okay. That's something that we'll continuously work on, is trying to get that message out as quick as possible. And I think Remind allows us to do that much faster than going through Swift and picking the right group and logging in, and it just takes time. And so in those situations, you just don't have a lot of time to work with.
And every student's gonna find your cell phone and call home, so.
Of course, so that's why you gotta be quick on that, so.
I wanted to ask Krista about the emergency buckets. Are the emergency buckets getting restocked for this?
Yeah, so
school
the
year?
admin assistants, I've already been in conversation with them to inventory them. And if they have been opened, that I've given them the list again, they need to let me know what they need, yeah. And so they're gonna make sure that we still have an emergency bucket in every classroom and key parts of the campus, as well as the emergency flip chart.
Awesome.
And that's excellent that got completed, because that was a long journey to get those done. So I was really happy to see that those did get done.
School site council.
Just wanted to share that, we're looking at the policy, and we'd like to try to find a way to, make a commitment to having on each site council the opportunity for Fort McDowell representative to be on each site council. So that'll be something we'll be working towards, and how we go about doing that. Does it need a policy change, or is it something that the bylaws by site can change on their own? I mean, there's always a community member as a representative there. So is that something we have to change in policy, or is that something we can just do at the site level? We'll work with Dave Paoli on that to make sure we get that right. But we've made a commitment to doing everything we can to ensure that the Fort McDowell, there's a seat on site councils for a member of Fort McDowell to be there,
Yeah, that would be
to grow that relationship.
100%.
Okay.
Like it. Right, cultural awareness is our next item.
We talked a lot about this at our joint meeting and that was just in regard to Fort McDowell. But overall, we have to continue to build upon, what has worked in the past, as far as we've had some success with, bringing speakers in and bringing in different people to talk about, how maybe some of the things that we do, how it could be better, how we can include more students and make them feel that, that their culture is being respected, and that we could do a better job of that. So we will continue to work. We have, our starting point there is obviously with Fort McDowell to come out and speak at our back to school. They have a set PD session for our teachers, and then continue to work with Councilmember Nelson, who I've had come speak to the staff, And I'll continue to work with their new director when they're named and come in, but I've continued to work with Kathy and Liara on building. Yeah, I'd like to start doing the bus tours again. I think that was really an amazing thing that we did, and see if we could set those up for the future. And then just in general, just making sure that our students have a voice on campus and that they can come to us with things that they feel that we can improve upon and areas that we need to be more, attentive to. And I think one thing I'm going to do this year is have a student advisory board at my level, a district student advisory board. And I want to be able to have students come and share with me the positives, the feedback, areas where we can improve. And I think that'll be a great segue to find out where we can improve in that area. So that'll be something that'll be starting hopefully once kids get back. We'll do an application process. They'll be able to apply for that, and then there'll be a commitment to coming to those meetings, probably in the evenings, and and possibly part of our strategic plan as well. I've always believed strongly in student voice. So.
Yeah, that's great.
You're gonna take the new teachers and new people, basically?
Well, my connection was Dr. Meyer, and he's
just around Fountain Hill. Right?
Yes, yeah. So we talked about that briefly. I don't know where we're at with that. I did bring that up. Chris Alexander's been working on the PD schedule. A lot of it has already been completed, but I think we can carve out some time to take the Falcon bus around town and show them a little bit of the community. But I do want to get back to the Fort McDowell tour.
I was gonna ask, and I don't think this is in, board policy, this is more a question of just, from an administrative and human resources policy standpoint, do we have any kind of diversity and inclusion, training that our employees are supposed to take as part of what we specify from a human resources perspective? Yeah, is there an annual?
I would need to get back to you, because
Okay.
I haven't been able to get into that, and having a new HR director, who's excellent, and we're very, very happy to have. But one of the things her and I have talked about is once we get a little bit more above water, then what we're gonna do is start really revamping policies and procedures. Like they did new teacher orientation in here yesterday.
Nice.
Very well done. Like teachers felt it was very positive, and
Good.
It was very professional. And her and Alicia, our new payroll person, came in, and they just did a nice job with it. So if there's areas for improvement, we will address it. I think right now we're just trying to.
No, I totally.
So we just need a little more time to look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
But we
think
can
that.
we can take a look and give you an answer. soon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think that.
Sure.
I know from a corporate standpoint, at least, most companies have like an annual diversity inclusion, harassment, and then
Fire safety.
And
We do those
security.
through Safe Schools,
Yeah.
so I just have to go through and look at what the Safe School training has in it right now.
Child, like the mandatory reporting.
So those I know we
Yeah.
do, I just don't know what's in there in that specific category.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And we had, and the colleges both, we had to go through these online courses,
Yeah.
like 6 of them.
Right, and take a little quiz.
Information
Yeah.
security.
And if you didn't get it right, you start over
Yes,
and do it whole
exactly.
We have those in place.
Okay.
Do we have our bus drivers all squared away?
Yes,
Excellent.
that was one of the things at NAVIC meeting was they are all, like some of the districts, 60% bus drivers. They're gonna have to actually, they're not gonna, some districts this year will not be able to transport kids every day.
Wow.
We are fortunate, I asked John today, again, are we good on bus drivers? He said we are fully staffed, so.
Wonderful.
Nice.
I had a retired bus driver, Green, I don't know if you ever met Green, drove bus here for
Well, I was
30
gonna ask you if it was Manny.
30 years, well, man, it's dead, but,
Well, I think he's with us again.
is he back?
Yeah, what's his last name? Turner? Maybe?
I
Green
thought
Turner?
Green Turner,
I hope he's
Yeah.
not dead if he's back with
No.
us.
She's talking about Manny, who was on
Oh,
the,
okay.
Well, here's Manny, Manny goes, you go,
But
he's
if any of these
dead, and she goes, I think
retirees-
he's back with us.
If any of these retirees are looking though to
Dana
do
said
security,
Manny's passed away.
no,
we could definitely use them.
no, I'm just kidding, but, that's great. He's the one that asked me, he said, last spring. I didn't know he was driving again.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a need for maybe substitute drivers or
Yeah.
having people on a list,
Yeah,
but we really could use, and we'll be flexible, that's the other thing that a lot of districts are moving to, is these flex scheduling where if you wanna work 2 hours, we'll find 2 hours of work for you. We have to, we're not gonna be able to just say it's an 8-hour shift and take it or leave it. We really gonna have to move away from that. So again, we put out, I really wanna have all these security positions filled. So we put it out to the Times, we put it out to Fort McDowell, we put it out on Indeed, you know, all those different hiring sites.
Good.
So if anyone, and I asked all the principals, hopefully you saw this, I did ask all the principals to list any classified positions they were still hiring for, because I'm a real strong advocate of hiring parents. I think that's a great way to pipeline to hire people for those positions, so
I have not seen that.
you did not see
It was
that?
in the welcome back letter.
And they're
Okay.
welcome back letters to
I
parents.
don't get the welcome back letter.
Okay, we'll send
Well,
it.
you
the
should
Falcon
have, because
Focus.
it was in the Falcon Focus, or the thing I sent via constant contact last week.
Go back and look.
Yeah, so we did ask them to put that in there so that they could list the following positions in case someone wanted to either volunteer or be paid, either way.
Good, I mean, that's, I've been reading about this, so you said some of these districts are 60% of their drivers.
And they raised the pay, and they're not seeing any improvement.
Wow.
Like, some of them are paying, I heard $25 an hour,
Wow.
and they're still not getting any applicants.
Wow.
yeah.
We don't pay that much.
No,
Okay.
I think we are at like 18 or something
And
now.
we give them an 8-hour day if they want, right?
Yeah.
We'll work with them.
Well,
We'll be
some of
super- we'll
them,
be
they
flexible.
were doing bus driving, and then they were going to the schools
Right.
and cleaning, and then they go back to bus driving.
Yeah,
Or cleaning the buses, I mean, there's all things.
yeah,
Or field trips.
There's a lot of work to do around here.
yeah.
There is.
Right, our last item is discussion of community questions.
Would you like Kane to lead that? It's Matt's.
Yeah, we have, questions that were submitted, some of these, you don't have to necessarily lead it, Kane.
Okay.
Hopefully you have some answers to some of these. For the first one regarding the, how many projects do we have lined up to be submitted this application cycle for schools, facilities, boards? And how much of the quoted work is eligible for the school facility board's funds? We'll definitely have to get a firm answer from, John Flynn, and I think part of the additional question mark there is going to be, you know, if the board chooses to move forward with the school consolidation and what timeline that looks like. I know that some of those activities under the school consolidation, in speaking with, Dr. Sweeney previously, would be eligible for school facilities board, but not necessarily all of them. And certainly,
Well, and
Yeah, and
that's
then
the
there's
thing,
no-
and the way that Patrick and I explained it to the school, it explained it to the facilities committee is,
yes,
think of like a home warranty. So you can submit anything to the home warranty, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna pay for it.
right,
And it's really like a lottery. Just because you get your application in first, still doesn't mean you're getting it.
right.
So, you know, John was gonna start submitting things on July 1st. I don't know exactly what the deadline is for, like, you know, if you have to have them in by a certain time, but eventually the school facility board starts looking at it. Some things they pay 100%, some things they pay 50%, some things they're like, yeah, no. So it just depends, and it has to be truly broken. If you were at the middle school when John was talking about the alarm system, school facilities board had been contacted about that prior, but it wasn't broken enough for them to pay for it.
Right.
So we had to wait till it truly broke, and then they'll pay for it. But that also now required John to go there in the middle of the night. So we're kind of like at their mercy between winning the lottery and getting your home warranty to pay for something.
Yeah.
So
It was like the roof at the elementary school is a good example. We'd submitted for that funding from school facilities board, like, not even last summer, prior to last summer.
right.
And then it was in February, March, that they came back and like, oh, here's your funding, but you need to use it within like the next 60 days.
Yeah. So
And so then
it
we
was
had
a year
to
and a half
rush
process.
to get it done
Right.
over,
spring break so that we could use the funds before we lost the funds. So,
You know, I didn't lose it, but did we buy a lottery ticket just in case?
I have a lottery ticket.
so we can
$1 billion now.
And John's been on vacation as well, so he just got back. I think today is the first time I've seen him since he's been back, so, but we can definitely get additional information later.
yeah, for sure. What can we do to get additional funding for the CTAE programs and extracurricular clubs and classes? Are there ways to have community members sponsor and fund clubs? We definitely have some community funded clubs. I'm thinking of like K-Kids and Builders Club
Right.
from Kiwanis. So it's not as though that can't happen. It's just a matter of, even if a club sponsor or a civic organization sponsors a club, we still have to have a staff member
Correct.
advisor.
And it's supposed to be student-led, so the
Yes.
students have to create the club, and then once it's created, they have to have a staff member sponsor the club. Once once it's sponsored and approved, then they can go out and fundraise, and they have their own student activities account. So yes, you can, community members can donate straight to those clubs. They can also do the general tax credit, which is another way to do. That was something I can say is principal was really made life a little easier on me, is when people like coaches or even teachers came with an idea, as long as it was extracurricular and it happened outside of school, we could use the general tax credit to do that. So we pushed really hard for people to do that. Now you can specify your tax credit to boys basketball, or you could specify it to girls track and field, whatever you want to do. But if you do it for the general, it puts it really in the hands of site council and the principal to decide how they want to spend that. But then clubs can then do a request to use those general tax credit to do that. So for example, I've done that in the past with the garden club. They didn't have anything to get off the ground, so we sponsored by building that white picket fence out there on the high school campus. It separated the garden, and then they got a donation from Golden Eagle Foundation to build the walkway. So there are ways that the community can do that, but they can always donate straight to a club. So that would be the easiest way to do that, and then they can assist with fundraising efforts as well that the kids come up with of how they want to do that.
But tax credits can only be used for extracurriculars.
They cannot be used during the school day, so it can't buy you chemistry equipment, but it can, for the chemistry club, possibly do something for them that is extracurricular only.
And then back to the first part of the question, what can we do to get additional funding for CTAE programs and extracurricular clubs and classes? Again, for extracurricular clubs, we can use the tax credit money or donations from businesses in general. But to have those extracurricular clubs, they need to be student-led, and there has to be a staff sponsor for them. As far as the programs and classes, I think one of the things that we've discussed here tonight is, part of it is having a staff member who's qualified to teach it, and then also we have to think of the fact that we can't, as a district, afford to have a teacher teach 2 kids in a class. We can't hire a full-time teacher to teach 2 kids. So we have those limitations as well.
Well, we can be creative, and we've done that with calculus, and like Patrick would always say to me, we're not gonna lose kids over the fact that they are in the most advanced math, but concurrent enrollment could solve a lot of those problems. So we just have to be creative in that. And with CTE funding, that comes from the state, and that's pretty healthy across the board. When you say,
Federal as well with Carl Perkins and
Sure.
some others. And when it comes to CTE industry support, you can't give cash, but they can donate stuff.
Yeah, like if we needed equipment to do something.
That's how we got our virtual reality lab.
That's right.
How we got, there's still some of the things are still, over at Four Peaks, like the green screen and the production facility is still there. I just saw it the other day. But we get, we get funding for that to run satellite programs through EVIT. And it's a little more complicated, but generally, the CT funding I've always found to be pretty generous and something that is a good program to have, and it's usually gives you enough to support the program and then some.
Well, the satellite funding, we don't have currently.
Because we don't have any satellite
That's
programs.
right.
Yeah.
But I think there's room for that.
We had them,
Yeah,
for sure.
We
We
did.
did.
Especially in the technology side, IT, there's room for that. But just in general, working with EVIT, they control satellite funds that come from them to us based on, in the old days, if you send so many students down to our main campus, we'll give you so much money. That was Sally's MO. That's gone now. But Carl Perkins' money, I didn't see it in the budget. I don't know that we
do apply for that.
and did we get some?
I believe so, yeah.
'Cause it's,
We have to look at the CT's gone through such a roller coaster in
Right.
6 years, so we have a good relationship as a district with EVIT and Dr. Wilson, and so I just need to go out there and visit with him and take a look at, that could be part of our strategic plan as well as our vision for the career side of things. I'm a firm believer, and I say this all the time, if your student is a high-achieving, college-bound student, they should still look at EVIT because you're gonna get a set of skills that if a pandemic ever happened or some other thing that your job is cut, you have another set of skills and it could pay your way through college. So if you have you went to culinary school and you can work in a restaurant, make good money while you're going to college, it just supports you and gives you another skill to fall back on. So we'll definitely build that relationship up with them and look at, is there a need for satellite programming back at Fountain Hills, and which ones will we do that have been popular in the past? Nursing, photography, some of those ones were really popular here.
The hospitality, that used to be a
Hospitality.
huge program here. It was so sad when Claire left. And, but yeah, we have no graphic design, we have no yearbook, no photography. I mean, we have nothing. Is the cooking class still happening this year at the high school?
I've not seen the schedule yet, I apologize.
No, that's okay, and I was gonna actually ask, because at the end of the, 2020-21 school year, the students were surveyed, and that's how we ended up with the cooking classes and business
Right.
and the sports medicine, because
Right.
that's what
another
they,
popular one.
that's what they selected, which I was kinda surprised that we didn't have more like core technology.
Right.
Cause it's still like such a big
think sometimes they want
industry
something
and
fun.
area for, people to go into
And they feel
for a
like they
career
know how to
path,
do-
but.
A lot of those kids
Feel
do
like
stuff
they know
on their
how to-
phones and
Yeah,
on their
they feel like
computers
they
and
know
stuff.
how to
They
do it.
already alter pictures and do everything. I think they want something fun that it's like,
My point was, I wanna make sure that we continue to survey the
Right.
students and that we're
Yes.
offering, course selections in CTE.
Yeah.
Because what we as adults perceive as like, oh, they should take this for CTE, that's not what they wanna do.
Nope.
Let's make sure that we're, checking in with them and finding out what those students want to learn.
Well, the other piece to this, and we saw this the last time we went down this road when Four Peaks became an EVIT campus, is, the big program of cybersecurity, we never got off the ground because we could never find a teacher.
right.
So you also have to factor in the staffing of
Yeah.
it, can you get somebody, we've been fortunate with nursing to have people local that could take on that class, and business with Bruce was able to do that, and Carla, and so we just gotta, if we bring back satellite programs, which I think is important, we gotta make sure we pick things kids want, staffing's available, and we can realistically make it happen.
And I think our CTE program was better when it was on the Fountain Hills campus as opposed to over at the old Four Peaks campus,
Agreed.
because that became a transportation thing and not all the kids wanted to go over there, and then it was
away
like,
from their friends
right,
and.
and it's like, where they could do things at the Fountain Hills High School and take those classes and still get out at the regular time. Like kids who played sports, that kind of messed with them, that they're like, I don't want to be somewhere else, and that's why, some kids don't go down the Mesa campus, but they're like, I'd like to take these things if I could stay on my own campus and get out at 2:20 like the rest of the kids.
And there's no lack of room, so.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
100%.
The old saying, every scholar needs a skill.
Yes.
It exists. I mean, you get paid for your skill, not your grade point.
Yeah.
And I always tell, my favorite is, we gotta make sure we teach students for their future, not our past.
Yes.
And sometimes past looks pretty good, but in
Yeah.
fact, this, having spent the last 2 years with 17, 18-year-olds, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
That's 80 years, 60 years.
Don't
difference.
hold
Only 80,
yourself
but-
quite so
Yourself.
for decades, my goodness.
And
Now
it
he's
is-
Holden in the ghetto.
taking kids down
Assisted living
to,
ghetto.
taking kids down to EVIT and their parents.
Yes.
The expo is huge, and and I saw you at the expo last year when I took my school. So it's important, and by taking those kids, the vast majority signed up when we got back home. And so it's such an amazing facility. And I agree, it's not for everyone, but we do have the morning EVIT, which does fit with athletics a little bit better. And we do
Yeah.
have kids going to morning EVIT they actually start August 1st, so they
Nice.
start school soon.
Yeah, and the morning students are typically homeschoolers because they especially here in Fountain Hills, because we start so early.
Yeah.
But I can say that we should start thinking about an expo here, for the same reasons. Yeah, you're right. And the parents came because the students told them about it.
Yeah.
And because my program has a lot of parents who are in the industry, that made a difference. Now, here in Fountain Hills, we've got, Mayo and that whole medical side of things, plus the airline issues we've always had. I think, not in the CTE world, but just in Fountain Hills Expo, where they can come walk through the campuses, they can meet teachers, other students. My students that were there talking to, who were the best salespeople I ever had.
Sure. They're passionate about what they do.
The next is PTO involvement. I will say that it was something as part of getting FHUSD included in our meetings regularly, that we also wanted to include like Golden Eagle and PTO, and it just wasn't something that with some of the transitions that we had in the district over the last 6 to 8 months, that we didn't get off the ground. But I would really love to see that we have PTO, if not, not necessarily once a month, but
No.
if they can come, at least several times during the year, we'd love to get updates, just kind of like what we get from Stugo, right?
Right.
An update on what's going on, how they're involved, how they're supporting, because we should be deepening that partnership with, the different groups in our community who support our schools.
Yeah, I think we rotate PTO, the boosters, Golden
Right.
Eagle, and
Yeah,
just, they, like 5-minute update.
Coalition.
Yeah,
yeah,
coalition.
coalition, yes.
So, yeah, there's several different organizations, and it's always good to hear what they're doing, because like Krista asked earlier about, like, what does that mean when you say they support teachers? Well, I know what they do, but, even that, I'm, like 5 years removed.
A little out of touch, yes.
Right, so.
For sure. And then the last item was what can we do to spread the information on tax credits, how they can be used for the district, and the way they directly benefit the students? Do we have an active campaign asking the community members to take advantage of the opportunity? I know that it's been more publicized in the past, especially when Patrick was here, and in the past, our district has been able to raise, tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in a calendar year from tax credits. It is something that we should probably look at trying to do again, but with that said, as we've discussed, there are only certain categories where we can use that money. At the same time, when those coffers are full of tax credit money, then we're not potentially taking money out of other places in budgets so that we can do things like send students on,
They go on field trips and,
Yeah.
they
it
could go to
pays for like
sports,
the athletic
arts.
buses, for
Right.
the athletic activities, instead of it coming out of other budgetary funds.
Dwight Johnson has always been the biggest advocate for our tax credit program, and unfortunately, years ago, he wasn't asked to come back, for no particular reason. It just, change in management, change in style, whatever. But, so McDowell Mountain and Four Peaks both used to have Grandperson's Day, and McDowell Mountain still does. And so, that cafeteria would be packed several times a day, and Dwight would get up during every transition, and he would talk about the tax credits, because you're hitting a population who is now removed from regular education, and they're usually the ones that, probably would donate, but don't know how to donate or why they're donating.
Yeah.
So Grand Persons Day is a prime opportunity to talk to the community, in that age range. And then, unfortunately, when, 4th and 5th grade went over to the middle school, for a few years, they did Grand Persons Day. McDowell Mountain always does it the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And they serve a big turkey dinner, and it's fantastic. Well, Four Peaks, the 4th and 5th grade used to do it in February, and they would have a spaghetti luncheon. And they would invite all the grandparents to come and have spaghetti. But when the kids went over there, because 6th, 7th, and 8th was there, it kind of like, it was like, well, we're not sure the grandparents really want to come, or the kids want them here, although my kids always did. So, I think next year, if the board decides to consolidate those campuses, and it's a K through 5 school, again, that's another great opportunity to talk to that, the grandparents and explain the tax credits. The Fountain Hills Times writes things. We send out a mailer.
Yeah.
It's just getting people to understand, and unfortunately, that has to be a verbal thing. So unless you can have people in like a confined environment where you get to talk, they don't always understand it. And so, part of that is a declining enrollment. Part of that is, the median age in Fountain Hills is changing, and so you're not getting those same school parents, and there's a lot of variety there.
And, we have a lot of people who are retirees who are coming in from out of state who have no connection to our school district at all, and no necessarily desire to give money to
And we
our
have a lot of
schools.
part-timers here that don't file state taxes.
Yeah.
That they live somewhere else, so they file their taxes in a different state. And so if you look at the population here on how many are part-timers and how many are investments, that's a huge part of our population.
Yeah.
So
So not to say that we won't work to get better with that, but it's definitely not gonna be one of our objectives to like get 100%
No.
tax donations.
No, but
from
I think we
every
need to go
resident.
back to the Grand Persons Day and have a dynamic speaker up there explaining it, because
I mean, I
that's
pass out those forms at every
Yeah.
fundraiser that I'm part of. But if people get confused too, because you have $800 that you can do for a nonprofit, and that's different than, as a married couple.
Right.
Different than the $400 you can do if you're
Yeah.
married filing jointly for a school district, which is different from what you can give a charter school versus a private school.
versus
So I
foster care. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
I
so
think
many
it's
different
just-
ones.
And not everybody has $200 or $400 to put up front and hope and wait for it to come back.
Yeah.
So I think that we have
Although
to
now
be-
you can do it right before
I
you
know,
file
I
your
do.
taxes, so.
No, I don't. I have kids still in school.
Well, I
but
know,
yeah.
but now you could do it like those first couple months of the
Yeah,
school
it
year.
doesn't have to
or
be
of the
within
tax
the
credit
calendar
year, right?
year.
And that's another change that we tried to get out, is that,
Right.
and if we could go to H&R Block and some of those other places and put up some signs that, when you go in there, why don't you write a check for $200 or $400, you'll get that immediately back.
Right.
Another thing too is the coaches and club sponsors, how active they are in doing that
Yes.
is really important too.
Mm-hmm.
And the rules have changed since it first came out in the 90s. The $200 and $400 is still there, but now you can submit it. It used to be standing out here on New Year's Eve
Right,
taking
up till
checks.
December
Yeah, it's
31st.
Yeah, now and plus, there's some changes in how you can use it. That hasn't changed dramatically, but a little bit. But now you've got the whole business about vouchers.
Right.
Which is based on tax credits, and you've got all the others that were mentioned just a bit ago. So it can be confusing, and one of the people I talked to from my men's group was, well, I don't wanna commit to something because there's so many others out there that maybe my family wants me to give money to. And then he ended up not giving it to anybody because, so information is important. And I think we do as much as we can, but, keep trying.
I will certainly talk to Dwayne about that.
Right?
I think
I know,
need to
get
find
him out
a
there.
guy to do that for
He used to be great at it. He's such a dynamic speaker and stuff. And we even had a board at McDowell Mountain, one of those
You could
color-in
get on,
boards,
yeah.
of where our goal
Track
was, and you could color it in. But that's also when we had a lot of parents that were coming in, and they see that, and it's like a constant reminder. So, you did skip Madison's first question.
Oh, did I? It was
About the M&O budget shrinking.
Oh, sorry.
Funding is based on enrollment. We get so much per student. End of story. I mean, we don't have any control over that. The M&O budget, it's a formula that goes through the state. They're like, you have this many kids are weighted based on if they're full-time, if they're in kindergarten, if they're special ed, if they're this, they're that. Kids get weighted, so we have like an average daily membership, a weighted membership, and the state does the formula, and they're like, that's what you get. There's nothing we can do.
And the
So,
legislatures-
except increasing enrollment, and you've heard, you've seen all this, like, that's always our goal, to increase enrollment. But I just read somewhere that the median age now in Fountain Hills is 59.6 or something like that. So people like me who raised their kids here and started here 20 years ago aren't giving up my single family home for new parents to come in. That's one of the issues.
You can
And
start a new family. that's
I'm
fine.
not starting a new family. And my house that I bought 20 years ago is now worth 4 times what I paid for it. So even if I was a new family, I'm probably not going to afford my house.
It really comes out to being excellent what we do. I mean, that we have to, once we do that, we get some momentum. There's not one single thing
No,
that you can do.
there's no
Right,
It's a
silver bullet.
multifaceted approach.
Yeah.
And,
It's also based on attendance. It's not just head count.
Well, and it used to be 100
We
days,
have
now
to-
there's 3 days.
Yeah.
So.
so
So,
make sure they're there on those days.
And it's the average.
No,
Right.
no.
It's the average now.
daily
It's
rate.
not based
I
on a
remember
single
doing
count
like, oh, the
anymore.
100th day,
Right.
but
They used to do fun things, but now it's an average daily membership. It's
Average.
not based on those
Right.
single days anymore,
And-
so.
and, we get money for transportation from the federal government for certain miles that we get. So there's-
we need to have more kids taking the bus. I mean, we really do. That increases
Well, we've said
our.
that all along, the safest way to get to school is on a yellow bus that's built like
Unfortunately, that's not,
Can you repeat all that, please?
it's not conducive in this town. Parents like to drive their kids.
Well, and
so.
and kids like to wait till the last minute to get out of bed and then the parents take them, otherwise.
I'm
'cause-
guilty. My kid might have ridden the bus 5 times, and both of them have been here.
It's hard though, I mean, especially when, teenagers don't like to ride the bus, period, but as they get older and their bodies want them to sleep longer,
Right.
my kids had to be at the bus stop at like 6:35 a.m., okay, like,
It's still
Hour.
that's
dark.
hard.
My kids never wanted to ride the
Mash
bus.
at that time.
My
Yeah,
kids
no, it's
never.
always been an issue.
Seriously.
But, we're not gonna
But
change.
it flows. I mean, like, with housing prices, there was a time where the houses here were so low that most people were upside down on their homes.
Right.
And at that time, you could afford to move in, and we had growth years ago. That's why the middle school was built when it was. And so it does flow. So, right now, it is very hard for a family to move here, but that doesn't mean that in time it won't change. So we have to stop that bleeding out now, keep the kids we have, hope that students hear about good things we're doing and maybe want to come back, and then just, one thing at a time, fix that enrollment. And if you saw in that budget presentation you're referring to, in 1920, there was a tick the other way. If you look closely at that graph, it actually goes up for a very short distance and then it goes back down. So there were things that were, some of those
Yeah.
multi-year
I think it's
plans
like
we had in
1920.
Yeah,
place.
it takes that 2020.
School year.
Oh, the
later.
1920 school year.
Yes.
Oh.
They didn't are like,
Oh.
1920? What?
1920, yeah.
You weren't born then. But Dana maybe.
Yeah.
But in that school year, I think there were, and it wasn't one thing, it was, we won 9 state titles in 4 years, we had 2 A-rated schools, we had a marketing campaign, we had, some of those things were all factoring in, and housing was not crazy then either. I mean, you could still buy a house for, probably right around $300,000 or less at that time. You could probably find a home in this community, so.
Not now.
Not now, but it will change, and
It will.
Like I said, we don't know what even say 50 years from now, where we may not need school buildings, you know, who knows?
Yeah, we don't know what no, but we don't know what education looks
That's
like
right.
decades
It's different
from now.
now than it was when I was in school a long time
Yeah,
ago.
and the truth is that, you know, you probably, if you think about a lot of things in your life and how they look different for your kids than they looked for you, should we want their education to look the same as our education? No, we shouldn't. We can't get stuck in what it was like for us. We have to
What was
be
that
look
saying you
forward
just
looking.
Gotta teach kids for their future, not
Yes,
our past.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I know, you know, I put together that spreadsheet, 25 years ago, and it's within 5% of, and that was,
Pat yourself.
well, all I did was move
Yeah.
students over,
Yeah,
and looked at the demographics.
yeah.
And so, we don't wanna, the bleeding needs to stop. We need to teach what we can, call our own students as much as we, and as good as well as we can. But, we're gonna continue to decline enrollment in general because of the demographics of Fountain Hills.
But we have a really great recruiter now because
Yeah.
during the 1920 school year,
Yes.
Mr. J, Dr. J was
1920.
at the high school.
You know,
But, and to be honest,
He's aged
every
now,
public
right?
school is seeing a
Yes.
decline
Right.
in enrollment
They
because
are.
there are so many choices.
Options. Right.
the problem is, I had a meeting with CPLC today. We're the fastest growing county in the nation, right?
Yeah.
So some of these districts are going crazy.
Gilbert and Chandler,
Right.
and that's because they have
because there's
room to
family
grow.
housing.
But here, in our, people say, well, your district is Fountain Hills. No, it's not. Our district includes part of Scottsdale and a
McDowell.
big portion of McDowell, the ranch next door.
Yeah, Goldfield.
Oh,
Goldfield Ranch.
Goldfield,
We
yeah.
annexed all of the land that was owned by the developer of the 2 acres. Now, what bothers me a little bit, because we talked about the park, that we should annex that park. Well, we didn't, and Cave Creek did. So Cave Creek District now borders Fountain Hills District. It bothers me a little bit down the road because of things going on up in Rio Verde, but, we have to make sure that we respect, not too many people are built on that land that's annexed in Goldfield Ranch. But we do have a bunch of houses now that are in our district that are part of Scottsdale, and their students have to come out almost to the middle school,
Yeah.
and then around the horn, and then back to us, and they cried their eyes out. Scottsdale tried to make an offer to let them have it, and we said, what's in it for us? And Barrissey said nothing.
And now he lives in Fountain Hills.
Now he lives in Fountain Hills. So, it's unique. We don't have the same borders as the town of Fountain Hills, and so, not everybody understands it, but
Yeah.
that is the case.
Well, we just need to, become the school of choice, Dr. J is a great recruiter. I fully believe that's part of why our enrollment went up. And like you said, we have to work on keeping our kids here. And, our highest enrollment was between 2005 and 2007. And Basis and Great Hearts
Nope.
they weren't there.
And Notre Dame wasn't what it is now either.
No, and neither was Scottsdale Prep.
Yep.
So we just need to get back to doing things well.
Recruiting wise, kind of it's in here somewhere, so, sports. What are your
We don't
thoughts
do
about the future?
You're not allowed to recruit.
Dr. Sports and
Did you-
recruiting,
No,
did
that's
you
okay.
hear what's happening at Phoenix Union?
Well,
Cesar Chavez, they're pilfering all their football players to go down to Basha. It's, and I guess there's a Twitter war, it sounds hilarious.
but in our
not
case, are we
hilarious,
gonna
it's
say,
terrible.
3 or are we
Not
gonna
really.
go to 2?
We went through that a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I took feedback from the community, the students, and the coaches, and 2 out of the 3 categories wanted to say 3A, and so we stuck with 3A. I think
But we had a petition to stay in.
we had to petition up, and there's mix, in certain sports, I think it hurts to
Yeah.
go down, in other sports it helps to go down.
Right.
There's powerhouses in 2A and 3A in different sports. So it really comes down to, I think the big thing that the coaches wanted is they wanted to play other public high schools. And 2A had that, and that they were the ones that were the most in favor of the 2A. I think parents and athletes wanted to stay in 3 because that's been our home for a long time. So, it was a tough decision, but, I just listened and decided that that was the best option for it. And we compete, we haven't had the state titles recently, but they're coming. We have the coaches and the athletes in town to do it. We just need to put a little more focus on, spending on athletics and providing, the right facility and opportunities for our kids.
And because we don't have to stay within our division during the regular season,
Right.
we've gone up and we've gone down with teams.
Yeah, it's hard, and that's hurt us with rivalries. Like, we don't really have one. I mean, Payson, I guess it is, but it hasn't traditionally been. That's not an accurate. Like, it was Seton Catholic for a long time, and then it was, maybe Scottsdale Christian for a little while. But it really has changed, and I think the Battle of the Bee Line, we were part of bringing that in,
Yep.
Jason and I, and it's a cool thing. I mean, there's a little pride in that now if who
Right.
wins it, and I think it's a good thing between the two schools that we have that. I have a lot of respect for them up there. I started my career there, so I think we're heading the right direction, but we just need to, we have the potential, I think athletics is a key to the enrollment issue very much. And we're gonna be working a lot on how can we build that up where you don't have to go play somewhere else for high school, because the clubs get you a lot of exposure and a lot of scholarships. So there's nothing wrong with being, a hometown star and being followed by George and, having your, no, it's a big deal.
It is, it really is.
And another thing is we have,
I put Fountain Hills Times up there as as an opportunity.
Yes.
Maybe it
but
could
we
have been
haven't
a strength,
celebrated,
yeah.
like another thing, like I've got Evelyn working on now, is we haven't had a Hall of Fame induction in a long time, and one I'll throw out right now is Jeff Bonner should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So when we get him in, and his players see him get inducted and his plaque in the, where it should be, and we get other players to do that, I think that will help, with celebrating some of that and having, I've got some ideas for, Evelyn, I really like where she's at, and
Yeah,
her and
I
I have a
agree.
lot of the same ideas of where we wanna go, and I think that is, a lot of calls that I would get as a principal revolved around athletics, and
Yep.
it's important to parents, and they're willing to drive all over the country to give their kids opportunities, so I really think we need to, we have a long tradition of being, a campus of champions and things of that nature, we need to get back to that, so that'll be a priority.
And the fact that we have some flexibility during the regular season reduces our travel costs dramatically.
Yeah, we're not playing River Valley and
Well,
Parker and
in our
schools like in the
first
past.
year, we were River Valley,
Yeah.
Page, and the other river towns.
And it's
Snowflake, and those are
Okay.
Yuma, those are, you're talking.
And there's some
4
good
hours.
things that AIA's done with, I think with, moving some of these teams that really had success up a division. I think that's opened the door for us to be, and other schools to have an opportunity to find success, and then, you get challenged, and then you can go back to where you were originally, but retaining coaches, and everything comes back to, I just think over and over, it comes back to the way people feel about working here, and if they like it, and we have consistency,
Yep.
then we'll be fine. And the consolidation possibly will help with athletics, because we'll have the kids on the same campus, they can participate in things, and that's all fine, because that's the normal community relations.
Yeah.
And the 3A thing, we've always been there, and rivalries, even though they're not every year. I happened to meet somebody at church which is on the Blue Ridge campus, and I had a Fountain Hills shirt on, and he said, "Are you from Fountain Hills?" I said, "Well, yeah, I lived there. I was on the school board." And he said, "Well, I played football for Fountain Hills, and the last year that your coach was there, you beat us for the first time." And I said, "Yeah." And I'm looking around for security, but it's a rivalry. I mean, Fountain Hills is that North Group's valley. When it gets cold up there, they come down here, they love it. So I think 3A is the place to be. I wouldn't want to go to 2A, even though there are some good schools.
I think that's already been decided for this year. I think
For this
year.
For 2 year
It goes
block.
every 2 years.
Yeah, so
We'd have to
we'll
petition
cross that
again.
later, but my hope is that our enrollment is the same in 2 years or better. Let's put it that way.
Good.
If it's the same,
I
then
like
we
that.
made progress.
Same in 2 years
That's
or
right.
better.
Put that down as an objective.
Yes.
It's one of our
It's
goals.
already down.
It's one of the goals of the board.
Exactly. Okay, well, dates of upcoming meetings, Wednesday, August 10th, 2022, we have a regular board meeting here at 6 p.m. And then Wednesday, August 24th is our work study session at 5 p.m. With that, I move that we adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Krista, do you need these back? Or are they doing
Or
it?
are you?
I'll give mine back.
We absolutely could use them back.
Yeah.
All right.
So Nadia's reminder, meeting.
Yes, on the first one in August, is the